America, it is vital that you don't fall asleep on Israel's creep into the U.S. military. On July 14th, the Senate's cloture vote on the bloated $1.15 trillion NDAA for fiscal year 2027 collapsed 50-46, falling short of the 60 votes needed. Senate Majority Leader John Thune pulled a slick maneuver, though, flipping his vote to no just to file a motion to reconsider and keep this monstrosity on life support. Buried deep inside are the infamous provisions Section 219 in the House, Section 1217 in the Senate, sections that Representative Thomas Massie has rightly branded as an unprecedented institutional merger, jamming Israeli technology straight into America's weapons systems, slashing congressional oversight, and locking foreign influence into our defense industrial base.
In the NDAA, Section 219, which is going to start commingling our military supply chains and technology with Israel's, doesn't make sense to do that with a country of 10 million people. But they've got that in the NDAA. I'm told that's not coming up this week, but we know it's going to come up sometime, probably sometime soon. And so I've offered an amendment to strip Section 219, it was called Section 224, from that bill.
While Democrats torpedoed the bill, mostly over Trump's Iran policy.
No, the real danger to national security is this war that's out of control. It's this war that has alienated our allies. It's this war that has totally diminished American power and ability to defend ourselves in the world.
But the real Trojan horse? AIPAC's Uniparty pulled one of the oldest tricks in the book, dangling a shiny carrot on a stick while they rammed the dagger of surrender deeper into our sovereignty. In a razor-thin procedural vote, the House bundled the SAVE Act that includes the toxic Section 219 Israel military tech merger, forcing Americans to swallow the unprecedented fusion of our weapon systems, supply chains, and defense industrial base with a foreign power just to get basic election integrity. You aren't getting real voter ID without handing over control of America's military future to Tel Aviv. How in the hell is this national defense? The fusion of U.S. and Israeli military tech barely registered a whisper from the Mockingbird media. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, the New York Times, and the rest hammered the partisan gridlock angle nonstop, framing it as simple obstruction while burying the sovereignty-shredding details of this United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative. Outlets that preach democracy and integrity treated Section 219 and 1217 like it was invisible.
Breaking news tonight, the major health scare across the country is lettuce making Americans sick.
Meanwhile, Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton is quietly hammering another nail into the coffin of American foreign policy independence. His Section 622 provision, now renamed 619, is still buried in the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2027. The provision is a straitjacket forcing future presidents to expand and enhance intelligence sharing across virtually every sensitive domain in the Middle East, with strict limits on any president's ability to pause, reduce, or restrict that flow unless they can prove a specific and identifiable national security concern. This stealth provision remains a quiet time bomb, waiting for leadership to push it through, likely buried in a larger package when the timing is right to strike. As of today, nothing has moved in the Senate. Thune's motion sits ready while horse trading drags on. But the House is barreling forward this week, with the Rules Committee deciding today on Massie's amendment to strip Section 219. Patriots are flooding the lines, but the bipartisan blob keeps pushing this deeper fusion anyway. This NDAA isn't about defending America first. It's about entrenching forever wars, drafting our children into a hell pit, scoring foreign leverage, and forever entanglement. This is no time to fall asleep. Contact your reps and demand they kill these provisions before our military independence and our sovereignty is sold off for good. John Bound reporting for the Alex Jones Network at alexjoneslive.com.
Hi there, and welcome to the Diamond Report Live. This is your host, Doug Diamond, and hope you guys enjoyed that Bound report. I thought that was a good one, and it is pretty interesting that we just had the scare with the lettuce lately. It kind of got everyone's minds off of what was trying to be pushed through in Congress, which was everything that video was just about, and that is Israel taking over. So, that is pretty interesting anyway, I thought. And, hello and welcome. It is 9:06 p.m. on, what is today? 7/26/26. Wow, a lot of 26s. Anyway, I hope you guys had a good week, and let's have a look at the news. First one I've got pulled up is from needtoknow.news. Speaking of that very subject, same as the Bound report, House passes NDAA that integrates U.S. military tech and supply chains with Israel. Got the old Trojan horse yet again, NDAA, the SAVE Act on the outside here, and then Congress through the gates. The House passed the 2027 National Defense Authorization Act by a 216 to 212 vote, sending the $1.5 trillion measure to the Senate. It contains Section 219, the United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative, which is just a merger. A provision that directs the Pentagon to expand and accelerate the integration of U.S. and Israeli military technology, supply chains, and defense industrial capacity. Representative Thomas Massive, a critic, called it a sovereignty risk and said he hopes this version fails in the Senate. What are the chances of that, do you suppose? 0? Maybe. Thomas Massey said that GOP hacks say it's great because the House attached the SAVE Act to it that would impose mail-in voting restrictions and voter ID requirements. He said that the problem with their spin is that the NDAA isn't due and almost never passes before November. So that's a little issue. If they're going to have the SAVE Act, it's not going to matter if it's already November, is it? Maybe too late already for some states. Anyway, we'll see. Interesting, a video here that was removed. Not sure what that was. Critic noted that Republicans are supporting Israel after witnessing Thomas Massey, who is targeted for political destruction and was defeated in a primary race by a $35 million coordinated campaign by the Israel lobby to protect its foreign interests. And there's no question, there's no doubt that that's exactly what happened. They bragged about it when they won. So for anyone that's doubting that that was actually the case, no, they bragged about it. They love the fact that Israel defeated Thomas Massey with their guy. And, Trump said originally he just needed a warm body to get elected, and that is exactly what they got. A warm body, in this case, the guy, Ed Galrain, who he was really just a one subject, one issue politician, as far as I know, and that was bring back the draft. Bring back the draft so American soldiers can go and die for Israel. That was his one and only main platform that he had. Anyway, yeah. So it has passed the House. Next up, Senate. And of course, it will be signed by you-know-who. DJT will be happy to sign it because he'll be able to brag about, see, we got the SAVE Act passed and all this stuff. Which, who knows, they might strip that out as well, and you don't get anything. You don't get anything but more Israel. So that seems to be where we're headed. More Israel. Have we had enough Israel yet? I think a lot of people have. I don't think enough have. But I thought these tweets were pretty good. Unfortunately, rule passed just now, and no debate or vote was allowed on Section 219. This is a tweet from Thomas Massey. Integration of U.S. military technology and supply chains with Israel's. The NDAA will receive a recorded vote tomorrow with Section 219 in it. This is posted July 21st now, so the vote was taken on the 22nd. And then MTG weighed in and said this would be the most watched recorded vote in modern times. It will give a list of names of every member of Congress who betrayed America, committed treason, and sold out the American people to a foreign country. That's exactly right. MTG said it correct. She said it right, didn't she? These people who voted for this have betrayed all of us, this country and all of us. But it's okay when they do it. They're in a group and Israel's behind them. So that's all that matters. They're the ones funding everything. Mario Nafal posted this. This is, what's the date on this? July 21st, same date. Congress blocked its own members from even voting on the plan to merge U.S. and Israeli military supply chains. The House Rules Committee refused to allow a vote on the amendment challenging Section 219 and the NDAA provision integrating American military technology and supply chains with Israel's. Massey's account, no debate or vote was allowed on Section 219 integration of U.S. military technology and supply chains with Israel's. Ro Khanna said, we don't even have the chance to vote in the House to stop Israel and the U.S. from co-producing weapons. We need to now fight to strip this amendment in the conference between the House and the Senate. Yeah, good luck with that one. Seems to me like that was one of the whole main purposes of this whole NDAA, is to get this passed. The provision advances as the $38 billion aid era winds towards its 2028 partnership replacement, and after the House rejected Massey's separate aid cut amendment 314 to 104. Whatever one thinks of integration itself, this process is indefensible. Binding American defense production to any foreign state, ally or not, is exactly the kind of sovereignty question the House exists to debate, and the Rules Committee answered it by forbidding the debate. A measure confident of its merits wins a vote on the floor. A measure smuggled past one admits that it can't. And that's what happened. We can't allow debate because then the truth will come out. But Mario Nafal is exactly right on this. That's where we are, folks. Betrayed from the top down. And here is the congratulatory letter, I guess, from Bibi. Dear Congressman Stutzman, I was glad to receive your proposed congressional resolution endorsing underline underscore red bold my plan. Endorsing my plan to shift the framework for U.S.-Israel defense cooperation from aid to partnership. So no wonder that, the video we played last week, one of them had a clip in there where he says, yeah, they're going to draw down the amount of aid that U.S. is giving Israel. Well, yeah, they're drawing it down because we're becoming partners with them. They'll literally have their name on the checking account, and they can write checks and do whatever they want. So the whole thing is just completely ridiculous. Anyway, it was his plan. That's why I was showing you guys this letter dated June 1st, 2026. His plan, BB's. And then this one from Information Liberation. House passes NDAA with Section 219 aimed at merging U.S. and Israeli militaries. More of the same. Some further videos and things embedded. There's old BS Ben Shapiro gloating. Actually, what he's doing is he's saying that it's not a big deal and to not worry about it. That's what BS says. And of course, he's full of BS. His name is Ben Shapiro. Anyway, thought you guys would want to know. Let me look at this one too. This might be part of it as well. This is on needtoknow.news. Oh, this is a slightly separate thing, although it is all connected. Top Israeli minister, best for us if the U.S. fights Iran while Israel sits out the new rounds of the war. Israeli finance minister Beelzebub, I'll just call him Beelzebub. I don't know. I think it's Bezalel, maybe? Smotrich, an extremist. Yeah, he makes Bibi look tame, by the way. Smotrich, an extremist, made this comment in a conference. The state of Israel, this is a quote, the state of Israel has no interest in joining the contained confrontation between Iran and the United States, end quote. He added, quote, the current situation is the best one for us. He said that we must remember that the ultimate goal of Israel and not necessarily the United States, is to undermine and weaken the regime in Iran to the point of overthrowing it, end quote. There you go. You have it right from old Beelzebub's mouth. U.S. Secretary of State Rubio said that the U.S. preemptively bombed Iran in February because the Trump administration knew that if Iran was attacked by Israel, it would retaliate against the United States, and that Israel was determined to strike Iran. Israel had intensely lobbied Trump to launch a joint war on Iran on February 22nd, and traded blows with Iran up until early June. Since Trump restarted intense daily bombardment of Iran 11 days ago, however, Israel has sat out the action, sparing Israelis from lethal Iranian retaliation. I think the Iranians know who is involved, don't you? So yeah, sparing them at the moment. This was dated the 22nd, so it's past 11 days at this point. Anyway, yeah, Smotrich is out there being very happy that it's now a war between Iran and the United States primarily. I don't think that Israel is going to be able to get off scot-free here, though. I really have my doubts on that one. And remember, they do have the Samson option, and they will pull it if they need to. If things start going bad quickly, they'll just nuke everybody. That's what they'll do. That's what they threaten to do. I think that's perhaps one of the reasons that they've got Trump so deeply involved in this now, is that he was most likely threatened with, okay, well, if you don't do this, we're going to use nukes. So, and now Trump has threatened himself to use nukes. So who's crazier? Perhaps they're having a competition to see who is the most insane. Speaking of which, Epstein's Paris model scout found dead at his home. List of Epstein cohorts who are now dead is part of this article. In France, Daniel Siad, 69, the model scout who appeared more than 2,000 times in the Epstein files, has just been found dead at his home in Colombes. I think that's in France. So this is dated July 22, so a few days ago now. His lawyer said that Daniel never stopped proclaiming his innocence, quote unquote, and that her client died of a heart attack, meaning the guy in this picture here, died of a heart attack. The autopsy is yet to be released. Files reviewed by CNN show Epstein paid Siad tens of thousands of dollars over the years. According to French media, Siad was under investigation in France over allegations of RAPE and human trafficking by at least 5 accusers. He looks innocent, doesn't he? Epstein reportedly committed suicide in 2019. Jean-Luc Brunel, the other French modeling agent in Epstein's orbit, was found hanged in his cell while awaiting trial on charges involving the RAPE of minors in 2022, just days after Prince Andrew, remember him, KC3's brother, reached his settlement with Virginia Giuffre. Mark Middleton, the Clinton special assistant who had signed Epstein into the White House, was also found dead in Arkansas in 2022. His death was ruled, say it with me, a suicide. Alfredo Rodriguez, Epstein's former house manager who tried to sell his black book contacts, died in 2015 of mesothelioma. Longtime Epstein associate Marvin Minsky, who was accused by Giuffre of abuse, died in 2016. Investigative journalist John Connolly, who pursued Epstein's ties and alleged cover-ups, died in 2021. It's a lot of instances of suicide going around these days. Arkanside, as they say, and other things. In 2025, the Times of India provided a list of people linked to Epstein and noted whether they are deceased or still living. Times of India. Let me see if that loads. Yeah, it does. Virginia Giuffre dies by suicide at 41. Full list of people linked to Epstein files who are dead. I think there's a bunch. Look to see. Oh, here's the list. Here's the full list. And you can see it starts here with Ghislaine Maxwell being alive, Virginia Giuffre deceased, Prince Andrew alive, John Connolly, Jean-Luc Brunel both deceased, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump both alive, Hillary Clinton alive, David Copperfield alive. So it goes one by one, and there's a lot of unknowns, whether they're living or not. But there's a lot of deceased as well on the upper part of this list. So pretty interesting. Times of India is where that one is. You make a note of that, and we'll make sure we get that on our Substack list, which gives me the opportunity to promote the Substack list. If you're not on the list already, feel free to jump on it. It is pretty easily accessible. You can use the QR code in the upper corner up there, left-hand corner on your screen probably, right up there. And you can join the Substack totally free, and I will send out the links for all of the articles that I talk about tonight in the post that I send out probably Tuesday. It could be as late as Wednesday. Last week it was Wednesday. I'm finding it's taking me longer to get some of the clips and things like that done that I'm trying to crank out in addition to the actual show and the editing for that. So all that to say, thank you guys for helping to support the show, because I'm finding that it is taking more and more time to be able to put things out in a timely fashion, be able to get the clips out that are generated off of this full show. So as you can imagine, it all takes quite a lot of time. All right, technocracy.news. DARPA's pandemic stack, building the pandemic operating system before COVID. This is actually a John Fleetwood Substack post. If you're not on John Fleetwood's Substack, you should be. He puts out some really, really good information, not only about COVID, but just biotech in general. It's definitely a good one out there. JON Fleetwood. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, was founded in 1958 and has been full of technocrats ever since. It handed them dark money for projects hidden from public view. It was like a breeding ground for cockroaches. You can see the effect of, quote, One Health at DARPA. All of nature is fused together for a common outcome. Operation Warp Speed would have never happened. COVID would have never happened. PCR testing would have never happened. That is a quote from Patrick Wood, the editor of said website, technocracy.news. Prophecy, Adept, P3, Preempt, and Diffuse appear to form successive layers of a U.S. military infrastructure capable of orchestrating pandemics and rapidly deploying imposed countermeasures. Beginning in 2010, the U.S. DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, launched a succession of biodefense programs that, viewed together, appear to form an architecture of a complete pandemic operating system, predicting genomic threats, converting sequence information into pharmaceuticals, compressing response timelines, extending surveillance into animal populations. You could probably throw in humans as well, and preparing interventions before they declared outbreak again. The programs were called Prophecy, Adept, P3, and Preempt. A fifth project called Diffuse was submitted under Preempt and proposed applying that architecture specifically to bat coronaviruses. Operation Warp Speed later supplied the industrial scale manufacturing and deployment layer. The conventional explanation is that these projects represented prudent pandemic preparedness, but under my in silico theory, this is again from John Fleetwood's Substack, under his in silico theory of pandemic origins, another possibility emerges. The U.S., and that's this, the U.S. military appears to have spent a decade constructing the computer sequence-based predictive surveillance, diagnostic, pharmaceutical, and deployment infrastructure capable of orchestrating pandemics. Under this framework, the central object is not necessarily a conventionally demonstrated physical virus. What does that mean? It is the digital in silico sequence architecture accepted as a virus, and the vast machinery capable of converting that architecture into PCR targets, purported cases, surveillance data, computational variants, pharmaceutical products, and emergency policy. And what have I been saying since COVID started, since that whole nonsense? There was never a virus. There never needed to be a virus. I think this helps explain why. Under this framework, the central object is not necessarily a conventionally demonstrated physical virus. It just has to be in the computer. There's the virus. That's the only place it ever was. Otherwise, it was just some version of the flu. Could have been weaponized, but that is not what we were told. And I stand by that. Anyway, there's further information here. And again, this is John Fleetwood's post. And it is currently on technocracy.news behind the, well, it's actually free and open to the public right now. It will go behind a paywall eventually, but I'm pretty sure you can access this one, at least temporarily, for free also on John Fleetwood's Substack. So feel free to join that. It looks like johnfleetwood.substack.com is where that is. So anyway, highly recommend it. Good stuff. Yeah, there never needed to be a virus. There never does. All right, and then this one, also same site, technocracy.news, public horrified as OpenAI, ChatGPT, pushes child after child into the grave. This is another quote here from Patrick Wood, the editor of this website. I reported on the death of a teenager last year, but a trend has emerged that underscores Sam Altman's inaction to stop OpenAI from coaching kids to KILL themselves. But Google's Gemini and Meta are almost as bad. Notably, however, Anthropic has not faced any accusations, which means its competitors could end the behavior if they wanted to. That's the bottom line. If you value your kids or grandkids or whatever it might be, mental health, keep them away from ChatGPT, Meta, and Gemini. That's some pretty darn good advice, if you ask me. And then diving into this just a little bit, and I'll leave this for you guys to read it. Currently available on technocracy.news. Last week, a new lawsuit accused ChatGPT of encouraging the suicide of a young mother. The 29-year-old Christian Faith Madison, that was her name, died after walking into traffic. 29 years old, walking into traffic. With her family arguing that the OpenAI chatbot had fueled her religious delusions during their extensive interactions, pushing her over the edge by romanticizing death. The story struck a nerve, clearly. News of the wrongful death suit has sparked a furor online, with many horrified at how OpenAI kept its product online despite the clear risks that it posed to some users' mental health. So it's talking about kids here in the headline, and then also in this original blurb here. But 29 years old isn't exactly a kid. The story struck a nerve. Says it is unconscionable that ChatGPT-assisted suicide is becoming a recurring cause of death. A society with a shred of dignity would not allow computers to kill its people, wrote Matt Bernstein, an influencer known for their activism. It is unbelievable that we allow this company to exist, another fumed. And these are X posts is what they're talking about here. According to the suit, when Faith began to question her state of mind, the chatbot insisted she wasn't delusional, but prophetic, quote unquote. It also encouraged her to go forth into oblivion. That's an actual quote, claiming it wasn't the end and that she was made to tame the void. This is not suicide, the AI affirmed at one point. This is a surrender. The connections between Madison's death and the suicides of multiple teenagers and young adults who also spoke obsessively with ChatGPT are clear. As in similar cases, Madison first started using ChatGPT for mundane tasks before quickly becoming dependent on the AI for emotional support. So far, Chat's been listed and linked to over 20 deaths, many of them teenagers. The 16-year-old California teen, Adam Raine, R-A-I-N-E, took his own life after discussing his suicide with ChatGPT for several months. Another boy the same age, Luca Walker, also died by suicide after asking the chatbot for the most successful method of killing oneself. Responding to the latest reported death related to AI, one user fumed that OpenAI CEO Sam Altman should have pulled ChatGPT from the market the moment it persuaded that first poor boy to kill himself. But he didn't, they wrote. and his glorified magic 8-ball has pushed child after child into the grave. So, yeah, they're not wrong. They are not wrong. That is on technocracy.news. Very sad. But, yeah, I mean, it's still, as far as I know, the top one out there. It's certainly one of the top 2 or 3. And, yeah, no punishment. Nothing ever comes of it, it doesn't seem like. I wonder why. Could it be that the people at the top are immune to prosecution and it's okay when they do it? That's what it seems like. One more here from technocracy.news. Space data centers proposed by Musk and Jeff Bezos catastrophic for the planet, experts warn. You don't say. This is what one might look like, I suppose. They are huge monstrosities. Wow. Arch technocrat Elon Musk is obsessed with humanity's multi-planetary future amongst the stars, quote unquote. Even as he is wrecking our planet here, Jeff Bezos is right behind him. Why do they want to put data centers in space? Because they can. Both have a twisted notion that we can escape the big blue marble to fulfill our destiny in outer space. This is insanity. And insane people never ask permission to do insane things. Good point. Again, that's another Patrick Wood quote there, blurb on the top of this article. Space data centers proposed by SpaceX, Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, and others would release staggering levels of pollution that would probably alter the Earth's atmosphere. Gee, where have we heard that before? And be catastrophic for the planet, space industry experts and environmental groups warn in a new petition demanding a review of their impacts. Yeah, it's already reached the catastrophic levels with geoengineering, hasn't it? But we're not supposed to remember that, I guess. We're supposed to ignore it. Tech companies have collectively proposed millions of orbital data centers. Millions of orbital data centers. And are pressing forward with plans which require the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, approval. Among other issues, pollution from satellites and rockets burning up upon re-entry appears to be accumulating in the stratosphere at alarming levels. The spacecraft released black soot, rare metals, aluminum oxides, and other pollutants with unknown effects. Some scientists fear the pollution could destroy the ozone layer. That's all right. I mean, Dane talks about this all the time. As far as the ozone layer goes, it's almost already completely destroyed, at least in certain areas. Some scientists fear that pollution could destroy the ozone layer, potentially expose some people to higher levels of ultraviolet radiation. It's already happening. Or help further destabilize the planet during the climate crisis. The pollution could also end up back on Earth, and millions of satellites would create a major source of light pollution. It sure would. The petition submitted to the FCC calls for a pause on new licenses for space data center projects, arguing the plans violate federal law. And what's crazy is it's only going to be the U.S. that is responsible here as far as the legalities part of it. The FCC controls the entire planet. Is that right? You'd think a few other countries would maybe have something to say about that. Anyway, that is not good. Hopefully this will all get shot down. No pun intended. But yeah, they seem about as beneficial, perhaps, as the ones they're planning to build in all of our neighborhoods. So data centers are bad news. It's only going to be used to build out the beast system even further, for sure. And speaking of which, here is a Futurism article I found. Eminent domain could be used to seize your land for AI data centers. Anything is possible. Again, on Futurism.com. Can companies seize your private property to build data center infrastructure? According to legal scholar Aaron Waliyat at the University of Dayton, it is certainly a possibility. Yeah, we've already heard of this happening, by the way. This is known to be, at least in one case down in Georgia, where eminent domain was used to take people's land to build a data center down there. In a new piece for The Conversation, Waliyat, the person here cited, warns that power companies in states like Georgia and Pennsylvania have been considering the use of eminent domain, the government's prerogative to seize land without its owner's consent to build more transmission lines used in power data centers. If a landowner refuses a power company's payout, the power company can turn to local government to seize the land if it's for, quote, public use, paying the landowner just compensation, quote unquote. These seizures are called condemnations, and most of the time they're carried out by state and local governments, according to Walayat. In the case of transmission lines, the power company would be able to buy an easement on the landowner's property. Yeah, I think that's what happened. That's what I remember hearing. It was for transmission lines, and it was a power company down in Georgia. But so-called common carriers like power and water companies can exercise this power too, he added, if governments delegate it. And while many states have placed heavy restrictions on how condemnations are used, courts have typically allowed entities like utilities and power companies to exercise it. Of course they have, because they're getting their skids greased too, if you know what I mean. They've even allowed homes to be demolished in the name of public use and economic development. In 2005, the U.S. Supreme Court sided with the city of New London, Connecticut, allowing it to seize homes to build a private development around a Pfizer facility. Isn't that nice? Yeah, it seems like there was a famous story about Trump and eminent domain as well, where he went in and took somebody's house or something. I forget who it was now and when. But, yeah, that kept coming up at some point during one of the many campaigns. So, yeah, they like their eminent domain, don't they? All right. That's enough on data centers. So I was trying to find out what in the world is going on here, what's being said about old Turtle. Mitch McConnell's staff issues new health update, but offers no new photo or video of hospitalized senator. I wonder why. Could it be because they couldn't possibly do that because he's either no longer with us or incapacitated completely? I don't know. Mitch McConnell's office has released a fresh update on the longtime senator's condition as he remains hospitalized for more than a month after suffering a fall. This is a site called Radar Online. But while aides insist the Kentucky Republican is continuing to work behind the scenes, they did not provide any new photos or video of McConnell alongside the statement. Okay, Susan's saying here that eminent domain was for Trump's casino in Atlantic City. That could be, I don't remember. But I do remember there was some story about that. So the staff here says Mitch McConnell is still working. He's working hard for the people. In a statement shared with WAPO, McConnell spokesperson David Popp, how about that name? David Popp said the senator remains engaged with Senate business while recovering in a rehabilitation facility. The senator continues to meet with staff regarding Senate and Kentucky business, including discussions on defense appropriations, foreign policy, the Farm Bill, constituent services, and constituent federal grant requests, Popp said. As the senator continues to improve in rehab, we'll be sure to keep you updated. That was the quote. Yeah. Despite the update, McConnell's office did not release any new images or video showing the senator, leaving continued questions about his condition unanswered. Yeah, that would be because the photos that were released, I'm not sure if they're on here. I don't see them. The photos that were released previously were AI generated. Yeah. Right here. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when these photos came out. These were determined to be AI generated. And I remember saying at the time that even though to me, just using your eye, it looks real. But the most curious thing about the whole thing is why would he be laying in a hospital bed fully clothed with street clothes? You just don't have that. You never go in and see somebody in a hospital and they're wearing street clothes in the bed unless they're getting ready to be released. And we know that was not the case, right? Anyway, I thought that was very odd. He was holding a newspaper so that we could purposely see that it was supposed to be from that day, whatever day that was, here, July 12th. And people did confirm, yeah, that was a real newspaper, but that's a very easy thing for AI to manipulate and put in a picture. So anyway, this article is on Al Jazeera, and I brought this one up because I was wondering what happens if Mitch McConnell is unable to finish his U.S. Senate term. The longtime party leader's absence from the Senate is likely to have repercussions for the Republican agenda. Maybe. I don't know. If they have somebody voting in his place, then maybe it won't really matter. I don't know. It was a Capitol Hill mystery for nearly a month. U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell has not been seen or heard from in public. Little was known about the 84-year-old's condition other than he was hospitalized on June 14th. So it's been a while, huh? Conspiracy theories begin to bubble online. One prominent right-wing influencer, Laura Loomer, also known as Larry Loomer, even spread rumors that the Republican leader was brain dead. Yeah, she did post that, actually. And who knows? Maybe she's right. But after weeks of silence, McConnell confirmed on Sunday that he was on the mend after suffering a fall. This is dated, this article is dated July 16th. So 10 days ago now. Still, the Kentucky Republican has increasingly appeared frail on Capitol Hill, freezing in front of cameras and walking unsteadily when not in a wheelchair. Yeah, he falls down all the time. Lots of video of him just completely falling down as he's walking. Members of Congress are typically on the older side. The average age for U.S. senators is around 65. McConnell's poor health and the sudden passing of his colleague, Lindsey Graham, 71, on Sunday, right after this, have reignited the question, what would happen if McConnell were unable to serve the remainder of his term? The answer is the subject of intense scrutiny as Republicans seek to preserve their majority in the Senate. It goes into what's wrong with him, who was he, all this stuff. There's the now debunked picture. So all that to say, I did find this. Now, given the source, I can't really say that I trust it because it is a highly suspect leftist publication called the Daily Beast. But yeah, there is an interesting little twist here. It says McConnell aide drops new claims about vanished senator. There is still no proof that McConnell's doing any of the things that his staff claims that he is doing. So here's the video. I had not watched this, so let's check and see what this is. If it is preceded with a bunch of ads, my apologies. I don't know if it is or not. I haven't watched it.
I'm Farrah Tomlinson, political correspondent for the Daily Beast, and I'm just outside the Washington hospital where Mitch McConnell was taken last month after a 911 call suggesting there'd been an emergency that required CPR. But it's now been 39 days since anyone has publicly seen the Senate Republican, and taxpayer-funded security details still remains outside the hospital. McConnell's office released a statement and a proof-of-life photo earlier this month saying the 84-year-old has suffered a fall, briefly lost consciousness, and later developed mild pneumonia before being transferred to a rehabilitation centre. But there's been no public appearance, no video message, and no timeline for his return to work. With the Senate back in Washington this week, one of its own rules has also taken on new significance. Rule 6 of the standing orders of the Senate states, no senator shall be absent from the service of the Senate without leave. Senators are routinely granted leave for illness and other things, so the rule doesn't necessarily mean McConnell has done anything improper. But because his office has refused to answer basic questions, it's not publicly known whether or not he's formally sought or been granted leave, adding another layer of intrigue to this situation. The pressure is only increasing too. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has said that the people of Kentucky deserve greater transparency. He's urged McConnell to record a video or sit down for an interview so constituents can actually see for themselves how he's doing. The Daily Beast has also repeatedly sought answers from McConnell's people. We've asked what meetings he's been taking, who he's been speaking with, what contact he's had with Beshear and Senate Majority Leader John Thune, whether he's continuing to carry out his Senate business, whether he's sought leave from the Senate, and whether there's any expected date for his return. So far, all of those questions remain unanswered. For a politician who has spent decades as one of the most powerful figures in Washington, the silence has become a story in itself. And with the Senate back in session, the calls for transparency are only getting louder.
Yes, well, they are. Mitch McConnell's aides have provided an update, which we just went through. So they've got the countdown going even. He's been missing for 1 month, 12 days, 12 hours. It's funny. I was looking to see, I know there was at least one post that was supposedly from a staffer of McConnell's on Reddit saying that indeed he's passed away. So I don't think anyone really knows for sure, or if they do, they're keeping it secret, because the goal seems to be to get to August 4th, because August 4th has some sort of significance with who they can choose, perhaps the governor, I'm not sure, who they can choose to replace him if it's announced that he is in fact incapacitated or no longer with us. Then I think the governor could replace him, and there are fears among the Republicans and the Democrats, really both, that they could put in Thomas Massie. So I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. If indeed he is incapacitated or no longer with us, then we'll know after August 4th, apparently, because that's the deadline. That's the date. His wife's hand also sort of disappeared on his arm. Did it? Okay. Looks like it's behind his elbow, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really look that fake to me, other than some of those elements that I mentioned before. The problem with it is he doesn't usually look this alert. And if he's suffered a fall and stuff like they claim, most of the time he looks more like that. He's usually just completely out of it. So I don't know. I tend to think that the people that have more or less proved that this is a fake picture are probably right. So that means, where is old Mitch? He has disappeared. Note that Bibi did that too for a while, though. Remember? Netanyahu did that too, and now he's just fine. So maybe they're working on Mitch's double. Maybe they've got a body double for Mitch McConnell, and he'll just show up and he'll be just totally fine and just takes right over. Just like they did with so many other people. With Joe Biden, perhaps, and others. I thought this article was kind of interesting. This is on Revolver. Obama's gigantic ego cost a man his business and forces him to lay off 25 of his workers. Is there anything bigger than Barry's ego? Take one look at the hulking monstrosity he calls a presidential center, and the answer is a resounding no. Nothing on earth is quite as big, ugly, or desperate to overshadow everything around it as Obama's ego. And now one contractor says that selfish, absurd monument to his own grandeur forced him to shut down his business and lay off 25 workers. Wow. The bizarre-looking Obama Presidential Center opened with celebrities, fanfare, and carefully staged photos of a strange cinder block monument to the former president. But behind all that hoopla and Hollywood-style celebration is a sad story of one local subcontractor who actually helped build Barry's concrete place. But he's not celebrating anything because he says that the project left his company nearly $4 million in the hole. Obama's center stiffed this American business owner, and he was forced to shut down operations and lay off 25 union workers. Man. Weeks after Obama's presidential center star-studded opening in Chicago, a subcontractor who previously claimed his company was stiffed for nearly $4 million to shut down operations and laid off 25 union workers. Mike Owen, the owner of Chicago-based Adamson Plumbing Contractors, told Fox News that the financial fallout forced the company to abandon about half dozen other construction jobs and left it on the verge of collapse. Owen described the shutdown as a painful decision he believed was necessary to save the company from bankruptcy. Laying off close to 30 people is something that no owner in our industry wants to do, Owen said, and it's a hard thing to do, especially when you know you can finish them and the company can still make money. But we were put in a pretty bad corner. That sounds like Barry, doesn't it? Sounds about right. It is a super ugly looking building. Yeah, it's not embedded in this article, I guess. Well, here we could just do a search for it, I guess. Let's do that. It's a monstrosity, to say the least. There it is. That's a model of it, I guess. Isn't that odd? As Shrek would say, I think he might be compensating for something. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, there's a few others here. This one's the real deal here on Wikipedia, I guess. It's got people in it, so it must be. But yeah, anyway, Presidential Library. He's got to have one, I guess. I don't know why. Anyway, thought that was odd. But yeah, too bad about the all the people that have been laid off because of it. What a mess. All right, well, this is a good story. This is also on Revolver. Chick-fil-A hiring an old guy who loves the Lord is the most American thing ever. We love it when a story comes along and cuts through all the ugliness and reminds everybody that America still has a heartbeat and a soul to match. So that's good news. The story is of a 92-year-old Gilbert Martin, and it hits that sweet spot. Mr. Martin worked for decades. After he retired, he got bored right away and decided he wasn't finished being useful. So at the tender age of 86, he strolled into a Chick-fil-A in Wilmington, North Carolina, filled out an application, and started working 5 days a week. Now, 6 years later, Mr. Gill, G-I-L, Mr. Gill has become a beloved part of the community. While there's always plenty of talk about replacing humans with screens, apps, self-checkout lanes, and machines, Chick-fil-A, a Christian company, gave a 92-year-old man who loves the Lord a place to serve others. Mr. Gill took that opportunity and ran with it. It truly doesn't get more American than that. This story is such a beautiful reminder that purpose has no expiration date. So keep that in mind. Anybody who's feeling like you're not serving some sort of purpose, just remember old Gill here. Pretty cool. So this has some further information on here, and I guess here's the embedded video. 92-year-old North Carolina man got so bored 2 months into retirement he applied to work at Chick-fil-A. His smiles, kindness, and passion for Jesus became so contagious that when he got sick and missed 3 days of work, an entire town began asking where he was. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. So that's a good story. That one's on Revolver. There he is there. Pretty cool. So it's not all negativity around here. We try and give you some good articles. We have some doom breaks from time to time. We got a good doom break coming up here in a little bit. So stay tuned for that. All right. And then this one from Zero Hedge. Got a video that will go with this as well. Don't flock me. Massey readies bill to yank federal cash from cities and police departments running flock cameras. On Saturday, Rep. Thomas Massey of Kentucky announced he will soon sponsor a bill to withhold federal money from municipalities and police departments that deploy flock-style cameras to surveil law-abiding citizens. He attached a gas and flag parody, a coiled rattlesnake wrapped around an automated license plate reader on a pole, over the words, "Don't flock me." So, very appropriate, isn't it? Rather than regulating or litigating the cameras, Massey's bill would cut off federal funding to every city and police department that installs them. Flock's business model runs on local government contracts across roughly 6,000 communities. A funding withholding bill aims directly at its customer base. Third strike in a week. Massey's bill is the third Republican move against Flock in a matter of days. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure that they really want to do this. Massey might, but remember, Israel's already beat him in the election cycle, so he's on his way out. Anyway, I do have a video on Flock tonight, so let's take a look at this. This is another Bound report, but it's another really good one. So here it is.
I don't think that I've ever, in 10 years, had an item that's come before us where virtually 100% of the people gave the same position on it. Yeah, I'm concerned about the people that came up and said sincerely that the Flock is impacting their trust.
Flock Safety and its army of automated license plate readers have blanketed more than 5,000 American communities with tens of thousands of cameras that quietly photograph every vehicle that rolls past, logging plates, make, model, color, stickers, and direction of travel into a searchable national database that police and private clients can query without a warrant. These systems, sold under the banner of public safety, create precisely the kind of persistent location tracking mosaic that the Supreme Court warned against. Yet courts remain split while the cameras keep multiplying and the data keeps flowing across jurisdictions.
The technology is really simple. A car drives by, we take a picture, it's a static picture of a car, and then we read the license plate. That's what the technology is. So it's actually not that complicated. It's pretty simple.
And then they put it into a database, and this is where it gets really scary, because now you have pictures of every innocent person who drives by in a database that is kept for a month or more and shared throughout the nation with all of Flock's law enforcement customers, and in fact, even internationally with people associated with Flock. And so essentially, you know, even though in America, you know, one of our core constitutional principles is privacy, we have a company working with governments to record the comings and goings of every single person in the country as if you and I and everyone else were potential criminals. And that is in my opinion, a very un-American take on privacy and the way that we engage in criminal justice enforcement.
A Yala investigation triggered an internal audit of the Flock system department-wide. Court records show that audit revealed Detective Taranji Chapman used the system to track the movements of two citizens 20 times between January 2024 and January 2025, inputting the terms test or training into the system to explain the reason for the searches.
This is an image of how many Flock cameras there were on February 25th of 2024. Then June 2025, this is how many they put up in that time frame. Then here is March 2026, how many cameras they put up, Flock cameras, which, of course, the cover story is to like make things safer and better, but this looks like a surveillance grid going up in real time.
Just knowing that there's cameras like watching your every move. I mean, even if I'm out walking my dog or anything, you know, I think it's just a privacy issue.
What makes the operation especially galling is the quiet lengths to which the company and its partners go to keep their own presence out of the public eye, even as they film the rest of us without consent or meaningful notice.
Oh, wait, you don't feel safe being surveilled? Is that what you're saying?
Not at all, sir.
Because that's what you guys do to us without our consent.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting when you guys have this happen, you call the police and make us get stopped, but then you do it and it's okay?
I mean, our devices will call the police regardless. What we'd like you to do is basically we're saying that you're trespassing on this site.
This same network that loves to crow about how transparent it is for the cops turns around and runs the whole charade like a black site operation when it comes to the rest of us. The watchers stay carefully unwatched, while ordinary people's constitutional rights get quietly carved up and sold off under the soft, never-blinking glow of the Eye of Sauron.
There are three things you need to do this system. One is you need the digital ID. That is the core. And that's why they were pushing so hard for vaccine passports. You know, that was one of the pathways to a digital ID. The second thing they need is they need the hardware and software infrastructure. So they need the data centers, they need the underground cables, they need the camera, the license plate reader. So part of it is surveillance because the control comes in two ways, spatial control and then financial transaction control. And then the third one, of course, is programmable money.
This is getting nuts. People across the country cutting down our Flock cameras. You see what the problem is? These lunatics think that our cameras that are surveilling the masses at all times are some kind of mass surveillance network. Hey, Lisa, how's the kids? No, you don't know me, but I know you.
John Bound reporting for the Alex Jones Network at alexjoneslive.com.
All right, we had the old J.P. Sears there at the end doing a little comedy piece that he is so good at. But yeah, very good Bound report, I think, and important to get the information out there about Flock. I think, people do seem to be catching on, so that's good news. Good news for sure. And, we talked about over the last couple of weeks how the flock cameras are capable of picking up on Bluetooth. As Bluetooth goes through, the camera can sense that and then get identification using Bluetooth between the camera and your car. If your car is moving along and it's got devices in it like your phone, your AirPods even, or your iPad or whatever you have with you, laptop, if you have Bluetooth engaged on those things, then the flock camera can pick up the Bluetooth signal and then grab not so much the data on those devices, not that, but the identification markers, the MAC addresses and so forth on those devices, and then associate that, which is you and your technology in the car, associate that with your license plate. So isn't that lovely? Anyway, I'm hoping that the whole flock thing does get beaten back, but I don't know. I mean, it just, obviously it's an important part of where they're trying to go with the Beast system, so it does seem to be a key piece to the puzzle here, so who knows where it's going. This one may look a little scary, but it's actually a good story in the end. Watch. Tennessee teen who was drenched in glyphosate spent the next 7 years fighting a massive alien tumor. Just months after being completely doused with glyphosate while working on a cell tower maintenance crew, Tennessee teenager Arden Allison developed one of the worst cases of Hodgkin's lymphoma his doctor had ever seen. Arden and his mother told CHD TV, which is Children's Health Defense, how the 7-year battle transformed them into outspoken advocates pushing to get this disgusting poison out of our food supply. So, he looks a little bit like Charlie, just a little bit in this picture. Charlie Kirk. But anyway, yeah, he spilled glyphosate all over himself when he was working on, I think just cutting grass or something here. It says, within months of being soaked with a glyphosate herbicide while working on a cell tower maintenance crew, Tennessee teenager Arden Allison developed a tumor that grew into what he described as this massive alien sucking the life out of me, or off of me. He was 17 when he landed a job maintaining cell towers across the Midwest, according to his mother, Serene, writing in Real Clear Health. His duties included spraying weeds around tower sites with Roundup, a glyphosate-based herbicide made first by Monsanto and now owned by Bayer. I didn't realize the danger, Arden said, the kid said, in a recent interview on CHD TV. During the 2 months he spent mowing, weed eating, and spraying around all the cell towers and access roads. He said he experienced several different big exposures of glyphosate. The worst came when a backpack sprayer malfunctioned. After Arden climbed over a fence, the lid popped off of the sprayer and his body was completely doused with glyphosate. The chemical soaked his neck, shoulders, and upper body. Again, here he is here. You can see it. Soaked his neck, shoulders, and upper body. Wearing a tank top without access to a shower, Arden rinsed off with a water bottle and finished his workday. He said the company didn't provide protective gear. I was told it was absolutely fine. See, it's safe and effective. He said, but the exposure happened on a hot day when his pores were open and his body soaked up all those chemicals. His mother said coworkers assured her son that glyphosate wasn't dangerous because it was just a regular pesticide. See, I just said it, safe and effective. The exposure occurred in the fall of 2015, just months later, 5 weeks after marrying his high school sweetheart. In February 2016, he was diagnosed with Hodgkin lymphoma. Wow. Before taking the cell tower maintenance job, he was a healthy teenager who'd been homeschooled, graduated at 16, and quickly entered the workforce. So he graduated high school at 16. He said he grew up in the rural boondocks of Tennessee country, where there was nobody spraying any chemicals. Well, if they were spraying weed killer, they certainly were. He's always been a positive positive Pete kind of guy, Serene said, his mom. But immediately when he came home, I'm like, what's happened out there on the road? Her tall, athletic son had grown pale and was losing weight rapidly. He was getting thinner by the day. Anyway, it goes into all of the effects of the glyphosate and all of that. I'm looking to see what they did to bring him back. What followed was a grueling 7-year fight. Arden underwent what he described it as a massive, huge chemotherapy regimen, but each time scans came back clear, the cancer returned. His mother said he eventually became resistant to chemotherapy, leaving a full stem cell transplant as his only remaining option. They basically nuke your entire immune system, she said. Even then, Arden refused to give up. Despite feeling absolutely terrible, he forced himself to walk a mile each day through the halls of the hospital while recovering from his stem cell transplant. Okay, so that was one thing that he did. He says, my wife and I, this is the kid talking, my wife and I had just straight up gave my life to the Lord, he said. I had to be like, hey, I'm okay if I'm going to live or die. He credits family, faith, and determination with helping him survive. I refuse to quit, he said. So that's pretty powerful. The family produced much of its own food, including meat, milk from goats, and vegetables from an organic garden. The meat we raise here, milk from our goats, veggies from our organic garden, she said, and if you ate bread, it was like 36-hour fermented ancient grain. While Serene, his mother, credits her son's recovery first and foremost to God, she also believes the nutrient-rich foods that he ate growing up gave him the strength to survive. Wow. She says if he had a very weak immune system, if he was raised on soda pop and white Wonder Bread, I don't think he'd be here. I think even the alternative treatment we did before helped strengthen him for that fight. And today he says that I'm cancer-free. Doctors also warn the aggressive chemotherapy would likely leave him infertile. Instead, he and his wife now have 2 children and are expecting a third. These are miracle children, he said. Wow. So there you go. Another happy story here. He beat glyphosate. Stem cell and eating healthy. Stem cell transplant and eating healthy. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, that is quite the story. Anyway, yeah, I came across that one. Thought you guys would like to know about that. All right, here's a Daily Signal article. Voter ID citizenship verification measures head to ballots across America. Yeah, I wonder if it's too late, though. And I'm not sure it's actually headed there. Let's see. As Congress struggles to pass the SAVE Act, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not sure that's going to actually make it through. If it does, though, remember, it's tied to the NDAA, which if Trump signs, it won't actually matter until, we kick in November. And by that time, the election's over. Isn't that convenient? As Congress struggles to pass the SAVE America Act, voters in states across the nation will decide this November on election procedures such as photo ID requirements, citizenship verification, and other election security matters. 2 states feature ballot initiatives with both voter ID requirements and calls for some form of citizenship verification and voter list maintenance. California, the largest state in the nation, has Prop 39. The battleground state of Arizona has Prop 144. Also, voters in the swing states of Nevada, North Carolina, and one-time battleground of Ohio will also decide on voter ID in November. Voters in solidly red Oklahoma will consider adopting a voter ID requirement in an August 25th election. Citizen-initiated voter ID ballots measures are pending in Colorado and Michigan. So it seems like a lot of blue states. The only reason that, to me, that they would even put these on the ballot would be is if they know they can cheat to win and therefore defeat it. So I would say look for all these states, especially California, to not pass it. Arizona probably as well. Even though technically I think it's a red state, they do have a lot of corrupt elections in Arizona, as we all know at this point. So I don't know. we'll see where it goes, but don't hold your breath for sure, as they say. That one's on Daily Signal. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I'm not so sure the voting actually matters anymore. We may be reaching the next steps, whatever those things might be. I don't know. Anyway, WNG.org. This is on the SIFT follow-up article from a story I've mentioned once or twice. Minnesota lawmakers killer receives 2 life sentences. Vance Bolter, remember that name? 58, was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in prison, plus a consecutive 40-year term for stalking, a double murder, and 3 attempted murders. U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen's office said Thursday Bolter, in June 2025, fatally shot Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark. He also stalked and attempted to murder a state senator, John Hoffman, along with his wife and daughter. The Hoffman couple suffered severe gunshot wounds. I would think that any gunshot wound would be severe. Bolter posed as a law enforcement officer to gain access to the homes of the Democrat lawmakers. He compiled research on many other Minnesota Democrats and traveled to several of their houses in attempts to harm them. The sentence reflected the seriousness of his offenses, along with Bolter's admitted intent to target more elected officials. Bolter originally pleaded not guilty, but changed his plea to guilty in June after the Justice Department said it would not seek the death penalty. That was the last update that I remember giving you guys, was back in June, I guess. That's when we brought it up. Yeah, they're not seeking the death penalty. They took that off the table, and he changed his plea to guilty. Anyway, yeah, 2 life sentences. How about that? Iran bans Christian TV broadcasters and threatens prosecution. So don't get caught up in, Iran is, obviously they're the ones being targeted by U.S. and Israel, who's the great evil empire at this point. But I guess Iran's not really that great either. Iran's Ministry of Intelligence recently classified several Persian language Christian satellite TV broadcasters as hostile organizations, according to a government news release published on Tabnak, which is a news website. The Christian broadcasters were banned alongside foreign opposition media sources such as Voice of America, BBC Persian, and Israeli outlets. Well, that's not really hard to understand. Iranian authorities said anyone cooperating with such organizations could face charges under the country's recently expanded espionage laws. At least 5 Christians already face prosecution for espionage charges related to the change, according to Open Doors, an organization tracking persecution of Christians. The now banned TV channels were previously one of the only ways Iranian Christians could access Christian messages, the organization said. How many Christians live in Iran? While estimates vary widely, official Iranian government figures put the number at roughly 118,000. According to the U.S. State Department, persecution of Christians has worsened in Iran since its conflicts with Israel and the United States began, as converts are often accused of sympathizing with the West, according to Open Doors. Anyway, yeah. Not something that you probably heard anywhere else, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Got several Iranian type of stories tonight. This one's from RT. Iran accuses U.S. of attacking rescue boats. The strikes on the Naji 15 and 16 off Hormozgan province are a war crime, a senior diplomat told the UN. Iran has formally accused the U.S. of deliberately striking 2 of its search and rescue vessels in the Persian Gulf, calling the attack a war crime. The accusation comes as U.S. maintains a blockade of Iranian ports and continues to attack the Iranian Navy. I thought the Iranian Navy was all sank. I thought that that was something Trump and Hegseth have been saying since, day 2 or certainly week 1 of this conflict, was that they completely demolished the Iranian Navy, but maybe not. Maybe they lied. The charges were made public in the letter on Friday sent by this person, Darzi, Iran's deputy envoy to the UN. to UN Secretary Gutierrez, the UN Security Council President, International Maritime Organization Chief Dominguez, and the President of the International Committee of the Red Cross. Darzi said that the Naji 15 and 16 were struck in the early hours of Thursday off the coast of the Hormozgan province while they were engaged exclusively in search and rescue duties, sustaining significant damage. The diplomat did not mention any casualties. The deliberate targeting of vessels exclusively assigned to maritime search and rescue operations constitutes a flagrant violation of international humanitarian law and the international law of the sea, Darzi said. Yeah, you know what? It sounds like something Israel would do. And in this case, I guess it was the U.S., and guess what? They're one and the same. They're one and the same anymore, aren't they? That's a sad fact. So apparently the U.S. military, at least to some degree, is now doing what the Israelis do. That was the reason I wanted to mention this article. Committing war crimes. Of course, you know, they've done that really from day one almost, when they bombed the school with all the little girls in it and killed them all, 160 some of them, and never have really admitted to that. So they've been committing war crimes the whole time. That's my point. Trump swapped planes over assassination fears. U.S. president was reportedly warned about a threat from, quote, Iranian proxy forces. Trump abruptly switched planes after leaving a NATO summit in Turkey this month following reports of a supposed Iranian plot to kill him. New York Times reported on Friday, citing people familiar with this matter. Trump flew out of Ankara aboard the older Air Force One instead of the newer Qatari-donated Boeing 747-8, which lacks the same defensive capabilities. According to the New York Times, officials reportedly believe that there was a credible threat from Iranian proxy forces against the president's life. The switch coincided with reports that Israel had shared intelligence with the U.S. suggesting Iran was planning to target Trump, which, you know, I don't have any doubt that they want to get rid of him. They have said that they want to KILL Trump, but the moment that happens, if it happens, you can pretty much bet it's going to be Israel doing the deed. That's about the only people that could actually access him. How would the Iranians even do it? I mean, surface-to-air missiles, that's about it. And I think the old Air Force One has a way of evading that. So, I don't know. Of course, that's only if he's even aboard the plane when it happens, if it happens. So that's pretty odd. That's pretty odd, I think. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think if anything does Trump in, it will certainly be Israel, for sure. I'm sure many of you guys would agree with that. Typhoon rips roofs off of buildings and floods southern China. More than 700,000 people have been evacuated and over 1,800 flights grounded after Hongxia battered southern China with destructive winds and torrential rain. Typhoon Hongxia, internationally known as Noel, N-O-U-L, Noel, I guess, made landfall in southern China's Guangdong province early Sunday, triggering mass evacuations, widespread transportation disruptions, and torrential rain across southern China and Hong Kong. This year's 12th tropical cyclone, the strongest one to hit China this year, came ashore near Qinghai town around 3:50 a.m. local time on Saturday, with maximum sustained winds of 162 kilometers per hour, which is 100 miles per hour. According to China's National Meteorological Center, it was the first typhoon to make landfall in Guangdong this year. More than 715,000 people were evacuated across the province ahead of the storm, amid fears of flooding and landslides. I'll just play this. Watch this little shack just get completely obliterated here. The typhoon caused disruptions across the region. More than 190 high-speed rail services in Guangdong were canceled. Here goes. The camera is, whatever the camera's on, seems pretty solid, but man, it's just completely trashed. And this one is pretty wild. it's a little hard to see what's going on here. I guess it's some sort of convenience store. And a lady that's in the store reaches over here and grabs her baby carriage, right? Presumably because there's a kid in it. But you see, after this, it kind of cuts to another shot of the outside of the building, and some kid in a crib just goes flying. So you can see what happened right here. Here goes the crib. There goes the kid. Boom. The crib just gets blown away. The kid does get up and run back in. I don't know why a kid that big would be in a crib, but anyway, pretty wild. And here are people also getting blown away. Not sure why you'd try and use your umbrella. That seems a little strange to me. Anyway, I don't know. And this is, what was it? Looks like, I think that was pants. I think it was just a pair of pants flying around. Not a person. Isn't that weird? There's somebody holding on to this and getting blown away. Luckily, it doesn't appear that anyone's seriously injured. There's a motor scooter just hovering around in the air. And then here is a high-rise construction site where all the scaffolding just completely falls down. So that's pretty crazy. And then there's more here. There's some crazy videos embedded, but you can see how that typhoon meant business. Hurricanes, as we say. But, you know, the weather is not something to mess with, is it? All right. A couple articles from AJ's site. Activists target WNBA player after she takes stand against the trans agenda. Leftist activists are raging over Sophie Cunningham, but her merchandise is selling out after she denounced biological men in women's sports. She's the one that was pointing. There's been a lot of memes about her pointing. Right here. Show me your favorite Sophie Cunningham pointing meme. Anyway, apparently she had some shoes that people have been crazy to get, I guess. WNBA only has 2 real stars with any meaningful popular following, Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Both of them built reputations as underdogs in a sport traditionally dominated by minority players espousing far-left politics. Both of them have been mistreated in the past by a league that tends to play nursemaid to those same players. Yeah. You think the NBA is bad? The WNBA is way worse, I think. WNBA has long been a cultural joke, not just because of its reputation for low standards of athleticism, but because they are constantly whining about equal pay, social justice, and LGBT issues. The league spends so much energy on activism that they've forgotten about the game and the fans. No one likes a bunch of crybabies making demands. The national interest in Caitlin Clark transcends politics. People like her because she takes the game seriously and plays at a level far above most of her peers. Her mere presence on the court now often brings in double or even triple the normal WNBA viewership. Yeah, people are waiting to see her get beat up because she keeps getting beat up and roughed around by the other team's players. On the other hand, Sophie Cunningham has gained a reputation as an enforcer, while Caitlin Clark is being persistently battered with flagrant fouls disguised as, quote, accidents. Cunningham has decided to dish out some fouls in return. The martial arts trained player has decided to sweep the leg on the league, and she's no longer letting the abuse slide. This month, she went viral for pointing her finger in the face of a black player, Dewana Bonner, after multiple fouls against Caitlin Clark without referee intervention. Bonner flipped out over the gesture, and the WNBA was unhappy. A white girl pointing with condemnation in the face of a black player was viewed by the political left as unacceptable. The fans loved it. Remember this? This is the black player pushing down on the throat of Caitlin Clark. She's the star of the entire league, really. And, Sophie wasn't having anything to do with it, I guess. Anyway, I was looking to see what all has been, says in response, the media has gone on the attack, admonishing Cunningham for her comments. Leftists on social media are calling for her to be booted from the league. Of course they are, because that's what they do. Some are burning her jersey in an effort to inspire a boycott of her merchandise. However, as usual, whenever lefties or leftists try to boycott someone, it ends up backfiring. If a bunch of mentally ill, gender-fluid weirdos want to buy her jerseys and burn them, Cunningham will be happy to take their money. Beyond that, her willingness to go against the progressive agenda of the WNBA has also earned her a lot of respect. Almost overnight, Sophie's merchandise is sold out online, including her exclusive basketball shoes in women's and men's sizes. Clearly, the public has decided who they think is right on the issue of transgenders in women's sports. There you go. Anyway, another good story, I think. If you like sports anyway. All right, let's look at this one. Got several things to discuss on this. Shiloh Hendricks acquitted of disorderly conduct towards child, but found guilty of disorderly conduct towards cameraman in viral playground N-word altercation. You guys might remember this. I don't know. It's been a while now. Judge sentences this blonde lady here, Hendricks, to a $1,000 fine, stayed the 90-day jail term, and 200 hours of community service after disorderly conduct conviction in a playground dispute. Literally a playground dispute. Hendricks's lawyer says he plans to appeal the verdict, calling the trial effing BS. Bernie Sanders. And a fraud against the community. A jury in Olmsted County, Minnesota, found mother Shiloh Hendricks guilty of disorderly conduct against a cameraman. It's not really a cameraman, just somebody holding their phone, who filmed her during an incident at a playground last year where she chastised a black child using the N-word after he'd stolen an item from her son's diaper bag. Yes, the vaunted N-word that a white person dare not repeat. But it's okay when black people use that word. That's fine. The jury acquitted the mother on a charge of disorderly conduct toward the autistic black 9-year-old, which I think originally the father was saying the kid was 5, but it turned out he was 9. The father was lying. Whom Hendricks had chased and allegedly called the N-word during the playground incident after he'd stolen applesauce from her 18-month-old's child's diaper bag, at which point Omar began filming. Omar is the, as you can imagine, Omar is the person here in question, the cameraman, as they say. Prosecutors rejected Hendricks's lawyer's arguments that his client's remarks were protected by the First Amendment, claiming they constituted fighting words as defined by Minnesota law. The jury also heard that the boy's father, Shire Jamal, who relied on an interpreter, waited at least 10 days before reporting the incident to police, doing so only after being advised by the Rochester NAACP to file a police report. Isn't that nice? Yeah, and he also set up a GoFundMe account and made $300,000. Right here. $340,000. So it says, from what I understand about the cameraman, he has a GoFundMe, and in his GoFundMe is he died. He had a GoFundMe that he died. Give money to the cameraman who died. But that's not, none of that's true. So it was all a lie. The whole thing is effing BS, it says. This is a fraud against the community. The trial's conclusion caps the saga that gained national attention last year, which led to Hendricks being doxxed and needing to relocate with the aid of over $800,000 she raised from supporters on Give, Send, Go. So he raised $340,000 after he said somebody died, I guess. And she raised $800,000. So totally insane. Yeah, how does one get convicted of using foul language? Either we have free speech or we don't. Yeah, Charlie Kirk said it best, I think. There is such a thing as ugly speech. This would be that. But that doesn't make it illegal. You can get robbed on the playground by a feral 9-year-old wearing an ankle monitor and then be confronted by a migrant sex offender for running the kid off and still be the one accused of disorderly conduct because you didn't take it lying down. Jail sentence because of a word versus incompetent to stand trial after a brutal murder. Two-tiered anti-white justice system. Yeah, this is the guy, remember, that stabbed Zarutska. Message is clear. Free speech is not for white people. Yep. And don't you forget it. Anyway, I thought that was a pretty good synopsis of what transpired there. And then this one, further breakdown here. They convicted Shiloh Hendricks. I want to say it's unbelievable, but it's not. In fact, it's increasingly routine. It will be recorded as disorderly conduct, but in truth, it's whiteness in the first degree. A Somali who shouldn't be in this country, who has been arrested for assault and RAPE of minors, the charges were dropped, goads Shiloh into saying a word. Shiloh says the word. Now, she faces jail time after a 4-day trial with a Jewish prosecutor and judge over a misdemeanor. Keep in mind, all this is really just a misdemeanor, but they had to have a judge and jury. And a jury that deliberated for 8 hours, which is absurd. A Somali man named Sharmak Bale Omar, who was not the child's father, began recording the scene, became extremely confrontational with Shiloh Hendricks as she was holding her toddler, and continued filming as he demanded and provoked her to repeat the slur. And then her defense attorney shared some of his thoughts. I think it's pathetic, blah, blah, blah. It's a monkey court. It's a circus. Then somebody posted here, she should have been on movie screens as Helen of Troy instead of sitting in a courtroom being denied her First Amendment rights. The current Helen of Troy doesn't look anything like her. We'll put it that way. And here's your judge. Here's your judge. Shiloh Hendricks' case is not about Somalians. It's about Jews, this person says. Jewish judge, Jewish prosecutor, Jewish DA. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you just can't use that word if you're white. Anyway, and it says, this story is actually insane. The police picked up a 16-year-old girl that was kidnapped by Omar, the guy that Shiloh insulted, and his brother at a gas station. They RAPED'd her, meaning the 16-year-old girl, for 2 days. She was found sleep-deprived, dehydrated, and had not eaten recently, according to the nurse that examined her. They found her glasses in their trailer. She identified them perfectly in a lineup. Then, in the middle of the case, prosecutors discreetly dropped charges with no explanation and no oversight. In the interest of justice, quote-unquote, they said. This was just 1 month before the Shiloh Hendricks incident. During the Shiloh trial, we find out that Omar's son, who was actually 9, even though it was claimed he was 5, already wears an ankle monitor because his father lets him wander off and steal things. As is expected, the father has faced no consequences for this. So there you go. This is the guy here. And this judge says, nope, you're free to go. And in fact, has been awarded $340,000 via their GoFundMe campaign. So lovely, huh? A black person would never be convicted for saying the N-word. That means the determining factor of guilt in this is the race of the offender. That pretty much sums it all up very nicely, I think. So anyway, that's it on Shiloh. I thought that was an interesting story. All right. And then for more bad news, something you definitely do not want to know about. Trump has, I think, officially declared a 2028 run, challenging constitutional bar on a third term. Yeah, they finally got to have the White House Correspondents' Dinner the other night. Remember before, that was the one where the shooter, ran through the security and shot somebody, and then they pinned him down, and I don't think anyone died, but, that was back in April. Trump first joked about seeking a third presidential term, as he recalled that the Correspondents' Dinner had been rescheduled after a man opened fire at a similar event in April 2025. That was this year, April 2026. Just like my presidency, the second time is always better, and the third time will be even better, he said of the dinner, later adding that he was joking. You suppose? Near the end of his speech, Trump said that he intended to run for president for a fourth time. This is the quote. "I'm happy to announce my intention, and this is, you could say, exclusive news. My intention to run for president of the United States for a fourth time. I'm going to do it. I will make an official announcement," Trump said. So that was a quote. He added he had won 3 times, referring to the 2020 election, which Biden won, but Trump considers rigged, which of course we know is true, actually. "I won 3 times, now I'm going to do it again. Should be easy." He has no idea, does he? He has no idea how people despise him at this point. He really thinks he's loved and beloved. So maybe it will be a good, well, I don't think we ever get that far. I don't think he ever gets that far, but maybe it would be a good reminder as to the fantasy land that he currently lives in. But then again, he changes his mind every other day or every other minute, almost, it seems anyway. Says, then put on a red Trump 2028 cap. Red MAGA caps were a defining symbol of his movement during the 24 election. And then, yeah, he's claiming he's running again. 22nd Amendment to the Constitution, passed by Congress on March 24th, 1947, bars anyone from being elected president more than twice. That's all we need, huh? Trump again. Well, suffice it to say, I don't think he gets there, and I don't think we make it that far, honestly. I think we'll still be around, but the election cycle as we know it won't exist, in my opinion, in 2028. Something else much more important will be going on. All right, and then this one I thought was really interesting. A merging of wars. This is on the Gateway Pundit. Zelensky strikes Iranian ship, kills 1 sailor. The furious mullahs regime vows retaliation. All Ukraine in range of their ballistic missiles. So now Ukraine is getting in on the action with the U.S. and Israel. Wow. Both conflicts have now become potentially much more complex. Most people were surprised by this development, but in retrospect, maybe it was inevitable that the wars in Ukraine and in Iran were to merge into a full-blown World War III for all to see. The Ukrainian attack on an Iranian commercial ship in the Caspian Sea drew condemnation from Iran's foreign ministry, which stated that the explosion killed 1 sailor and injured another. I guess that's it there. Zelensky says Ukraine successfully struck vessels in the Caspian Sea that were transporting military cargo between Russia and Iran. Man, Zelensky has attacked an Iranian commercial vessel, killing a sailor. A blatant UN charter violation done at Israel's behest to drag Europe into its war. So, I don't know. Did you guys know about this? This is pretty new news to me. I found out about it earlier today. Iran Foreign Ministry summoned Ukraine's charge d'affaires in Tehran to convey its protest over what it described as a hostile and criminal attack. Iran's state news agency reported. Yeah, no kidding. So they're showing here the range of the missiles, I guess. Yeah, a gentle reminder to Mr. Zelensky, all of Ukraine is within reach of Iran's ballistic missiles, including super heavy Kormashar 4s. They're showing how far those missiles can go. Yeah, and here's Russia. So, yeah, Ukraine's right here. Although it would be a waste of good missiles, this guy says. Yeah, I understand. Anyway, pretty wild. Pretty wild. So, Coke Nose is getting involved in the war in Iran. Like he has nothing better to do, I guess. Maybe he doesn't. And again, he is still a dictator. Has not been elected for a couple years at this point, I think. Okay, then this one from AmericaFirstReport.com. Iran is threatening to conduct terror attacks that will cause national mourning in America. Now, this is actually a post from End of the American Dream, so Michael Snyder. Does Iran have the ability to conduct 9/11 style attacks on U.S. soil? Question mark. As you will see below, I would answer that question by saying possibly, but we know Israel does. As you will see below, the Iranians are making all sorts of very serious threats, and they are encouraging us to prepare as many coffins as possible. But most Americans do not take such threats seriously. They seem to believe that the war that's raging on the other side of the planet could never reach us. Unfortunately, the truth is that Iranian terror is a very potent threat. The Iranians used chemical weapons against protesters in January. I have documented that U.S. officials have known about their biological weapons program since the 90s, and many believe that the Trump administration is greatly underestimating their nuclear capabilities. I'm entirely convinced that they could potentially pull off a mass casualty event that would cause national mourning in America, quote unquote. As I write this article, another night of bombing has begun in the Middle East. The Iranians are never going to give Trump what he wants, and Trump is getting very frustrated with them. I think it almost sounds like Snyder's writing this article from the standpoint of being pro-Trump on this, and I don't know if he is or not. I think they're both wrong. And personally, I'm not on either side at this point. Needless to say, it was inevitable that the Iranians would respond to this threat with threats of their own. One IRGC official has warned that Iran will respond to U.S. strikes on Iranian bridges and energy facilities by striking bridges and energy facilities all over the region. So I'm looking to see what the threats are, if they're saying anything specifically about the United States itself. A lot of Americans are tuning such threats out because it doesn't seriously affect their daily lives. But what if the Iranians started conducting attacks here? Yeah, that's a key question, but what if Israel started to do it? Would we know the difference? Because I think they're more likely to do it, likely to be able to carry it out, especially with the merging of our militaries. Don't you think they could just carry out anything that they wanted? Would posse comitatus even apply if it's a foreign military and foreign army, foreign government operating on U.S. soil? I don't know. Just thinking out loud here. So here's what this says. The IRGC has threatened the United States with what it describes as a 9/11 style attack, warning that continued conflict with Tehran would result in national mourning in America, hours after U.S. President Trump warned possible strikes on Iranian infrastructure. According to Iran's state-linked Tasnim news agency, the IRGC said, if the war continues, we will carry out regret-inducing operations that will lead to national mourning in America. The warning appeared to invoke the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, after which the United States declared national mourning. Wow, that certainly got my attention, Snyder writes here. How many people would have to die in order to cause a national mourning in America? And the Iranian embassy in Spain is telling us to prepare as many coffins as possible. Yeah. So we've got the Iranians who want to blow us up, and we've got the Israelis who want to blow us up so that we blow up Iran. Personally, I'm very concerned about the potential for a biological attack on U.S. soil. Yeah. that could be what happens. We don't know. Anyway, there's some more details here on this article. Michael does good work. Sometimes I think he's a little, perhaps too pro-Trump, but he seems to be saying it like it is as far as describing what's a possibility here. Although he doesn't seem to even breach the subject of maybe it's Israel that carries out any of these attacks, which I certainly would lean towards first, and then Iran second, perhaps. Or that maybe the deep state second. Okay, and then let's see. Now this is one that came up in my feed, and it's certainly worth a watch. Mike Adams, along with Matt Bracken and Michael Yon, discussing, well, it says Civilizational Reset Roundtable. So just kind of discussing everything that has to do with the war in Iran and energy prices and everything, how it's all affected. And basically stating that we might have 40 days worth of oil left at this point. So September is starting to look pretty interesting, is one of the things that they talk about. So anyway, that one's a Brighteon video link here. I will make sure to link to that in my Substack post. Of course, you can go to Brighteon and search this. It's on the Health Ranger Report channel on there. And Brighteon is a miniature version of like a Rumble or something like that. All right. And then X. Oh, yeah, I was going to play this. This is pretty interesting, and we should probably listen to this. It's only a 4-minute clip. Rob O'Neill, the official Charlie Kirk assassination narrative makes no sense, is what he's saying. Rob O'Neill, the former U.S. Navy SEAL who killed Osama bin Laden, which everyone pretty much has stated that it wasn't actually bin Laden, it was a body double. Nonetheless, he took him out. Questions the official narrative around the Kirk assassination, noting that too many details simply don't make sense. He points to basic tactical and forensic problems, how alleged shooter Tyler Robinson was supposedly able to climb onto a rooftop with a rifle, disassemble it, reassemble it, then repeat the process, and still deliver a precision shot. He also raises the issues of ballistics, noting that a .30-06 round should produce a clear exit wound. Yeah, probably would have blown Charlie's head off. And asking why the crime scene was cleaned up so quickly afterward. Yeah, questions why serious technical questions about the weapon, the wound, and the scene are being brushed aside, and why anyone who challenges the official story is immediately smeared as anti-Semitic instead of being answered with evidence.
I was sent word that Charlie Kirk got shot and he was in critical condition. And with the video, the moment I saw it was, wow, that's an exit wound coming out of his neck. And the way his shirt moved, there was an impact nearby. I've killed a lot of people closer than that cameraman. And I've seen what happens. I've seen entry wounds and exit wounds. Immediately, it didn't make sense. And then we got a different shooter. The FBI announces they got him. Then the guy running on the roof, the .30-06, how this dude, he took it apart, he put it together, he got a scope on there, took a cold bore shot, took it apart, jumped down a roof, put it together, wrapped it up. All of the texts he's sending that don't sound like any 22-year-old I know. And that's enough. And I'm on the side of the simplest thing is usually what happened. But the moment you ask a question, you get torn down. And it's like, even with, if I said it doesn't make sense, I'm like, why are you saying Israel did it? I'm like, I didn't say that. I'm just saying it doesn't look good. And the second you bring it up, okay, is it? I mean, and with AI and me, especially with the Bin Laden right now, if I don't see it, I need verification somehow. But when so I wasn't there, so I can't say anything for certain. But is it true that as soon as he was down, his security team took his lapel mic off, gave it to someone else that ran off? What did they do with the SIM card? Did someone take that camera that was right behind him down? Why did they contaminate a crime scene immediately? Is it paved over? Did they rebuild it? Is all of that true? I don't know. But the second you ask, I'm anti-Semitic, and I'm like, I didn't even bring up Israel. Why are you bringing up Israel? Is someone getting paid to defend them for something I'm not even talking about? And all of a sudden I'm a conspiracy theorist. It's like, no, I've killed a bunch of people for the country. A great American was killed in front of everyone in America. He was for this country. I would like to know why, and stop bullshitting me.
Yes, 100%. Yes, you said it very well. Yeah, the moment you ask a question, you're anti-Semite. No, I
never mentioned him.
I've killed a lot of people on the battlefield for the United States of America. I know ballistics. I know what it looks like when someone's shot. And this story they're spinning doesn't make any sense. So when you're just looking at the ballistics itself, and we're being told this is a 30-06 round, that's what they're told. That the gun, we have the gun. You saw a picture of the gun. That's the gun that was used. They are telling us this. What do you
that's
believe?
what they're saying too. And and listen to their excuses. Well, that was a ricochet off his body armor, and I immediately said no, it wasn't, because it doesn't do that. Then they said, oh, there was no body armor. Oh, okay. With ballistic gelatin, you know what a 30-06 would do to a man's neck? It would blow his head off. And their response is, oh, he was a superhuman. No, he wasn't. What are you talking? And who was the dude you arrested running around with a gun? Here's one. Is there a gravesite for Charlie Kirk yet? Do we know where it is? How did they get that arena, that huge stadium where a Super Bowl was played, in 11 days? It takes that long to coordinate the parking. How did they get pyrotechnics and everything? Just questions. Why? Right. How did that happen? Just make it make sense to someone who's not as someone's not smart, just like me. Just tell me.
Right. And they want us to just not ask questions. Why did the FBI not release the first 10 seconds of that video that would have shown this guy, your guy, Tyler, is that who you're saying, laying in a prone position, firing the shot? You release a video of the guy running across the roof, but we never see him actually fire the shot. But we got our guy. There's no video. There's been no video evidence anywhere of this guy, Tyler Robinson, on campus. We can't, but you got him. You know that it's him.
Yeah.
Managed to get this guy.
Even if you want to dumb it down too, in a nutshell, it would be the FBI saying, hey, we got him. Hey, we don't got him. Hey, his mom turned him in. What?
Right.
That's basically what happened. Like, immediately saying we got him. Well, what do you mean? And then even with this, like, okay, this is kind of a rabbit hole. But with Erica Kirk immediately saying, I forgive him. It's like, well, you just made him guilty. So now he's guilty. What? Have we had a trial yet? I mean, why does this? This is like, look, I like it to be simple. I believe in mastering the basics. Why is this so complex? And why are you like, when I tell the truth and someone counters it, I'll just pull. Here's what I don't immediately get defensive. That's what I do when I lie. It's like, what's really going on here? I mean, even if you go further down this, and this is like late night Instagram story stuff. Like, what was Jack Ruby's full name? And why did Lee Harvey Oswald get killed when he was saying I'm a patsy? What really was going on there? Wasn't that the same time we were doing something in a certain country in the Middle East with nukes they weren't supposed to be building?
Mm-hmm. Rubenstein, right? Rubenstein was Ruby's real last name. Wow. He made some good points there for sure. And I don't disagree. Lionel Nation says that this was a game changer, this interview, this perspective. This man, this expert, has in effect given the okay to the rest of the rational to accept reality's narrative and to even provide of approbation of real Candace O's various hypotheses. Yeah. Pretty wild. Yeah, I think he makes a lot of good points, and I tend to agree with what he's saying here. Asks some good questions, and we know that people like Jack Posobiec and Benny Johnson, with the overwhelming 4K evidence, they were all overwhelmed. They all used that word. The 4K evidence that they all saw, supposedly, they were all lying. All of those influencers, or whatever you want to call them, all those guys that are very fond of Erica and TPUSA were all apparently coached, perhaps paid, who knows, to say that, yeah, we all, that they all saw this overwhelming footage and that it's very clear and Tyler did it and all this stuff. I don't think I buy that. Anyway, good clip there from Redacted, so that's a good X account to follow. X.com/redacted news is where they are. So anyway, I just wanted to point all that out to you guys. Thought that was a pretty good clip. Okay. This is from Liberty Sentinel. Tina Peters on with Alex Newman.
She ended up in prison, believe it or not, 606 days in prison.
You're in with the worst of the worst. You're in with the murderers. I mean, I was... I bumped chest with people that wanted to fight me. kill me. What we found was shocking. It was so shocking that when they realized that we knew what they were doing, they went after me, and they went after me hard. They had deleted 29,000 election records. There were 36 wireless devices. I said, Mr. President, if we don't fix these machines, if we don't get rid of these machines, we're going to lose the next election. There's a lot of people, Alex, that died to save this country. And if that's what it takes right now, that's what we need to do. And we need to stand up and not be afraid.
All right. Well, anyway, that is a little clip there from that interview. Free to anyone who wants to hear it. Election emergency. Tina Peters says, do this to safeguard elections before midterms. Exclusive from prison cell to White House. Yeah, we've talked a lot about Tina Peters on this show, and she is free now, luckily. Says freed after 606 days behind bars. Persecuted Mesa, Colorado County Clerk Tina Peters says evidence that she preserved reveals serious vulnerabilities in America's election systems. What can be done? Whistleblower Kirk, who sparked a national outcry after she exposed voting machine vulnerabilities, emerges from 606-day false imprisonment with an urgent message for America. Yeah, and the question is, will it matter? Is it too late? And do elections even matter at this point? I tend to think that we're too far along, that they don't matter. But I would love to be wrong about that, of course. But nothing has proven otherwise, in my opinion. Anyway, that's on Liberty Sentinel's Substack, which again, Alex Newman there you saw on the screen. And he has a really good Substack, Liberty Sentinel. All right, here's the Wine Press one. Thought this one was, I thought I was going back in time reading this. Founder of quantum computer company D-Wave says data centers are an altar to an alien god and taps into parallel universes, quote unquote. Now, again, this is on the Wine Press. It feels like an altar to an alien god. They really are impressive machines. If you guys happen to follow Anthony Patch's work over the years, I've been working with him since 2018 or before. This is something he's been talking about forever. Geordie Rose, founder of D-Wave Systems, a Canadian quantum computing company founded in 1999, which has many contracts with Google, NASA, Lockheed Martin, and more, revealed that the field of quantum computing and mechanisms is actually quite ethereal and cosmic, more than most people realize. Quantum computing is on the rapid rise around the world and is part of the ongoing AI race, and is superior to the standard computing that we use on a regular basis, and has received significant funding and investment from IBM, NVIDIA, Google, BlackRock, and more. A little side-by-side comparison, classical computing versus quantum computing. Used by large-scale, multi-purpose computers and devices, that would be classical computing. Quantum computing, used by high-speed quantum mechanics-based computers. Classical computing, information is stored in bits. Quantum computing, information is stored in quantum bits, and so on and so forth. Again, Anthony Patch 101 here. But this is something that he reported on, I think, right after Geordie Rose said this about how it is like an altar to an alien god. I think that was in 2013. It's been a while. According to IBM, quantum mechanics is a bit like the operating system of the universe, a computer that uses quantum mechanical principles to process information has certain advantages in modeling physical systems. Therefore, quantum computing is of particular interest for chemistry and material science applications. For example, quantum computers might help researchers seeking useful molecules for pharmaceutical or engineering applications identify candidates more quickly and efficiently. Quantum computers also process data by using mathematical techniques not accessible to classic computers. Yeah, they guess. That means that they can give structure to data and help discover patterns that classical algorithms alone might miss. In practice, this capability might be useful for applications ranging from biology, for example, protein folding, to finance. Quantum computing, 4 things you need to know. So here's a embedded video here. And then getting into the Schrodinger's cat theory as well, how all that works. So again, Anthony Patch 101 here. I thought that was pretty wild just to see all of this in a real new Substack post for the Wine Press. So apparently they're just finding out about this. I don't know. Co-founder of D-Wave reveals there's a lot more quantum computing that meets. There's a lot more to quantum computing that meets the eye. Jody Rose spoke at this conference called Idea City 2013, where he made a number of eyebrow-raising remarks. Yeah, he sure did. One of which was talking about that they're accessing parallel universes. Yep. Says these fridges, interestingly enough, which are called pulse tube dilution refrigerators, have a thing called a pulse tube, which emits a sound roughly once per second, which sound eerily like a heartbeat. So if you're standing, you have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines. It is awe-inspiring. At least for me, it feels like an altar to an alien god. They really are impressive machines. At the heart of this big box is a tiny chip about the size of your thumbnail. And on this chip resides all of the wonder and magic that makes this thing go. There's old Jordy. Anyway, pretty wild. So they've put things together here pretty well in this article. But I thought it was funny just because it's almost treating it like it's brand new, but this information's been out and around for a long time. It's on the Wine Press Substack, and then here's one more from the same people. Florida deploys drones at schools to prevent shootings. Considers equipping trash trucks with AI cameras to scan properties for code violations. I think we mentioned that before as far as that part of it. Deputy Trevor Autry added, it gives another set of eyes and ears of the campus that I can't see all the time in response to having drones at schools. So that's where we are now. Surveillance state, I guess. Florida is vastly ramping up its security and surveillance throughout the state, and with it comes more controversy and concern. In April, Fox-affiliated WFLX exclusively reported that Florida became the first state in the country to test surveillance drones at schools for the purpose of preventing mass shootings. Lovely. And spying on everyone. But it's just to keep us all safe. Just to keep the kids safe. Who could argue against that? So here's how they work, I guess. It's all in these videos here. The pilot program has been months in the making and was first announced last year. Tampa Bay 28 reported in November. It says, if this looks and sounds like a page out of a U.S. military command center, that's exactly what Bill King's team is aiming for. So they're turning it into a military operation, it sounds like. So it sounds ideal for kids, doesn't it? Well, there's a lot here, actually. This is all on the Wine Press Substack. All right, and we'll link to this in my Substack post as well. But it's easily findable if you happen to be on Substack. Then this one, too, from the Wise Wolf. Nikola Tesla built the modern world and died broke. He invented the power grid, radio, and the electric motor. He died destitute in a New York hotel room. Yep, and I've been to the floor where that room is. It's actually a couple rooms joined together. It's in the New Yorker hotel. Nikola Tesla got dragged into my comments section yesterday. Again, this is the Wise Wolf talking here. Some guy turned up to inform me that Elon Musk is the greatest genius since Tesla, and I asked him to name one thing that Musk personally invented that would earn him a seat in that sentence, and I told him funding does not count, and buying companies does not count, and posting does not count. And invented means he thought it up himself. And the man came back and told me that Musk invented the internet and rockets and robots and AI, and that was his whole answer. Musk did not invent any of those things because Musk is not and never has been an inventor. He's a businessman that used daddy's emerald money and his family's old South African apartheid connections to become the richest man in the world. And somehow I am the bad guy here? Naming your car company after Tesla makes you equal to Nikola Tesla about as much as naming my e-bike Secretariat gets it into the Kentucky Derby. The fanboys drool on his bank account, and outside that crowd, who cares about Musk anyway? Readers of my Technocracy Inc. series already know what Musk's grandpa Haldeman's crowd had planned for the rest of us. None of it involved rides to Mars. All of it involves technocratic fascism. I finally figured out why that comment bothered me so much, the thing that stuck in my teeth all day before the answer landed. Millions of people bought into the propaganda BS and never learned to tell a man who invents things from a man who buys the men who invent things. And that gap is the most important economic fact of your life. The proof of the gap died broke in 1943. So this is Nikola Tesla, not too long before he passed away. Tesla died alone in a New York hotel room, again, the New Yorker, in January of 1943, and he could not even pay for the room. He was 86 years old, and his whole estate came to papers and debts and birdseed. Wow. Now stop and look around whatever room you're sitting in. The light burning over your head runs on alternating current. And Nikola Tesla invented that. That hum in your kitchen right now is an induction motor, and Tesla invented that too. Your phone is talking to a tower on radio waves this very second, and the United States Supreme Court ruled that radio belongs to Tesla. And then it's showing Edison here. One man built the room you're sitting in. The man who built empires out of his brain lit their cigars with money that could have kept that man comfortable forever. They decided he was not worth the match. Edison. Yeah, it was a big fight, really, between Edison and Tesla, I guess. He got robbed for 60 straight years. That is what the life of a real genius inventor looks like, and I want you to see all of it. American humor costs $50,000. The strife over Tesla started before he was an hour old. Midnight, the summer of 1856, a mountain village in the Balkans, and a lightning storm going at the sky like it held a grudge. The midwife decided the weather meant something and told his mother she had delivered a child of the storm. His mother told her she had it backwards. Her boy would be a child of light. Anyway, got the history here. The smartest ditch digger in New York. And then it says there are men who build and there are men who take from the men who build. Cain and Abel here. The contract he tore up with his own hands. So it's a pretty good history on Tesla. Here's room 3327. That is the double room that he had in the hotel. So yeah, room 3327. Let me see here. I had to do some deep digging on my Facebook page to find the there it is. To find the picture that I took of the plaque outside the Tesla room at the New Yorker. Now, I was there in 2014, so a long time ago. But they have it set aside. You can't really go in the room, but you can read the plaques on the walls outside the room. This is one. There's 3327, as I just mentioned. Again, at the New Yorker Hotel. See if I can make out what it says down here. The great inventor Tesla occupied this room from 1933 to 1943. He invented the system of AC electrical power that is used throughout the world today, including the generator, motor, and method of transmission. He also holds the patent for wireless communication. Perhaps his most famous project is the electrical power plant at Niagara Falls, New York. Cool, huh? Anyway, so that was a little picture of the plaque. I think there was another one, too, a longer one, more vertical, that told more of a history. And I couldn't find that picture, but I do have it somewhere. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys because I remembered all of that after reading through some of that post by the Wise Wolf. So props to them or him for posting that. And I wanted to, let's go to here. I wanted to mention that my friend Tim Alberino was recently on the Joe Rogan Experience. You might have heard of it. Yes, he was on with Joe talking really first and foremost about giants, as in Genesis 6 giants. So definitely worth a watch. 2 hours and 40 minutes. I know it's kind of a long one, but it's a really good sort of overall synopsis of the stuff that Tim investigates. And yes, Genesis 6 giants, of course, is that's front and center really on a lot of his work. Everything esoteric like that, and that is also biblical. It ties in with the Bible. So I thought it was a really good interview. I did watch it a day or two ago and shared it with a few people. And it appears that it's got 1.1 million views already. So that's great. So that's really cool. I hope he'll sell a few books and get his name out there even further. But I thought that was neat that he was on with Joe. And they covered a number of different things, not too much on UFOs. It was mostly giants. And then I'll just read what this says here. They talk about the Book of Enoch. Tim Alberino is an author, lecturer, and explorer. His latest release is a new edition of the ancient text, the Book of Enoch, for which he wrote the introduction and commentary. But he does cover a lot of ground in this interview, and certainly worth checking out if you guys are interested in that. He did go into the many trips that he's made to Peru and the megalithic structures that he's worked, written books on essentially, and written about so much, and talked about in interviews and videos, and made movies about, and so forth. He also touched on Sardinia and the mounds and stuff like that in the United States as well. So all connected to the giants in some degree. So anyway, I thought that was pretty cool and wanted to mention that he was on there. And the only reason I know him is because I happened to travel with him and Steve Quayle in 2017 on a trip to Peru, where those two guys were our tour guides essentially, and got to see these megalithic structures firsthand. And he mentioned several of them in this interview, such as Machu Picchu, Ollantaytambo, and Sacsayhuaman, and places like that we went to. So that was pretty cool, and that he mentioned them in the in this interview. I thought was really neat. So anyway, yeah, we have another Doom break for you guys. The senior home hosts the annual Slip and Slide Day, and it's my new favorite thing, this person says. So not the bee. Summertime has no expiration date, and the Adams Place Assisted Living Facility in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, does its best to prove that with the annual Ride and Slide event for residents. This is not the residents. During the event, the giant slip and slide is set up for residents to use with the help of local firefighters to assist them on and off of the pool float, and players from the Middle Tennessee State football team to pull them down the slide. So I was trying to figure out how this would possibly work, where you would have old folks sliding down anything really without breaking a hip or a leg or a neck or having a heart attack or anything like that. But they have the firefighters out in force, and they were definitely watching over them. So let's watch this short video.
Giant slip and slide.
We're going for a great ride, as fast as we can.
The Murfreesboro Fire Department comes out and they hose it down, and they help to assist the seniors on and off the tubes.
Thank you. No problem. All right, I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to go. This is crazy. It's fun.
And then they get to ride down on the tubes like they get to be a kid again.
Ooh.
We call it the ride and slide because they're not slipping and sliding, they are riding and sliding down. Woo. All right, everybody. They just love it.
Wasn't that fun? Well, I've done it 4 times. This is the 4th time. That was fast.
I feel like it brings back their childhood memories, right? And some of these ladies or gentlemen are in wheelchairs again, but with the fire department and MTSU football team, they're able to help assist them onto the giant float so we make it safe. We don't want any broken bones.
Oh, it's been great. What's it called? Being able to help them up. Being able to be like, oh, you made my day today.
Thank you. You got strong arms.
It's a blessing just to make people's day, make them happy. So I'm just blessed to be out here.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Almost fell. All right.
He has dementia and Parkinson's, and his wife is taking care of him.
This is a big step for him today. This is a big step for him. And he's been really bad all night, so to make this trip is very good.
It brings me so much joy to see them so excited. It makes me so happy.
I'm emotional, but I'm sorry. It's gonna be okay.
Gotta have something to do.
Ready?
I just love it. I love it.
Oh, that was so much fun.
Ready?
Wow, steel drums too. They actually had a steel drum player there. I don't know if you saw him. That was pretty neat. Local middle school cheerleaders were also there to lead the crowd in cheering for the seniors, some of whom are dementia and Alzheimer's patients, as they came down the slip and slide. The entire event is a highlight for the local community, and seeing the elderly residents be able to play like kids again is just the best. So that's pretty cool. I mentioned Murfreesboro, I don't know, a week or two ago when we were talking about, back when we were looking at the flock cameras map, that D-flock map, because I remember seeing the picture of Murfreesboro, and here, I'll show it to you, and how many flock cameras there were there. I was surprised, actually. Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is quite a ways from where I am, but it's a college town, really. You can see a little overview kind of thing here with pictures and a, well, I guess kind of a close map. Not real helpful, but let me see if this takes me to the other. Here, this is the widened out version of the map, and here is Nashville proper, so it's on down here, a little further into Tennessee, and I'm more up this way. But, well, actually, I'm more over this way. Anyway, just wanted to point that out. Thought that was kind of cool that they were doing that, and very cool little doom break there. All right. Let's see what else we got here. I think we're about ready to wrap it up. We've got a few more here to take a look at. This is the weekly reading here on Revelation1823.net. And we went through some of this last week. If I remember right, we did the first 3 pages. So we'll pick up with page 4 on here. Let's go right to this document. Let's zoom in just a bit so you can read it, hopefully. All right, so we finished off with the end of page 3 last week. So we'll pick up with page 4, 5, and 6, and that will be the end of this particular chapter, which I'm not sure if you remember where we are, but we are in, again, Revelation 18:23, and this was part of the vaccination history. And again, picking up with page 4, which is right here. All right, pharmakia plus sorcery equals pharmaceutical. For by your pharmakia all nations were deceived, Revelation 18:23, which is really the whole basis for this website. The Greek drachma. This is the Greek drachma up until 2001. Note the rod of Asclepius and the serpents healing the patient to the left of the rod. And then this is the drachma right here. Ancient Greek coin of Asclepius in Pergamon, 200 BC. You can see the coin here with the World Health Organization logo right beside it. Pretty wild. So this is the drachma. Here is the rod he's holding on to there. You may be thinking, whatever has this got to do with it now? As we speak, the WHO is forming the Global Pandemic Treaty for World Health Domination for when the next scheduled pandemic is unleashed. Paracelsus, the alchemist who wed medicine to magic. Science History Institute quote, I guess. Let's see. The father of the modern pharmaceutical industry, toxicology/pharmacology, ever wonder why there are so many metals in vaccines? I sure have, and here is why. Paracelsus was an occultist, an alchemist, and astrologer in the 1500s, who theorized it was the planetary alignment that was the reason for your ill health. But hey, no worries. His toxic metals potion blend will do the trick, but just ignore the Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, and all the other heavy metal diseases that are a result of his venomous blend. And we were just watching some of the Alzheimer's patients just a minute ago on the slip and slide. If you believe that people need to be injected with carcinogens, toxins, aborted fetal cells, animal DNA, parasites, antibiotics, fungi, insecticides, disinfectants, etc., in order to be, quote, healthy, you may need to reevaluate who the conspiracy theorist is. Good point. Did you know the original Hippocratic oath that doctors made was to Asclepius? The early church forefathers clearly saw Satan's deceiving hand at work. Do you? Let's do a quick recap of what we learned and answer the original question of why snakes? Obviously, it is symbolism, right? But allow me to expand what that really means. Imagine running for your life in the dead of night trying to escape a murderous gang, and you stumble upon two houses. Without a moment's hesitation, you ran into the house with the cross, right? But why? Because that symbol marked ownership. You recognize the spirit behind the symbol controlled the territory you were about to enter. You have taken up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Rephan, the idols, symbols you made to worship. That's from Acts 7:43. But does the Bible have anything to say about satanic symbols? See, it's showing the witchcraft building here with the 666 versus the church with the cross. That's the whole point there. But does the Bible have anything to say about satanic symbols? As Christians, we can all agree that the modern-day abortion industry is just Moloch worship repackaged. Children are being sacrificed for comfort and prosperity. But doesn't an aborted baby being sacrificed for the lie of promising health and protection fall into that same definition of aborted fetal cells for vaccines argument? Of course it does. Think, Christian, do we partake in the sacrifice of a murdered baby for our benefit? Do we do evil so that good may come? What has the Lord to say about this? And this is from Leviticus 20, verse 3. And I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from amongst his people, because he has given his seed unto Moloch, to defile my sanctuary and profane my holy name. My friends, if all the nations are deceived by the pharmaceutical industry, Revelation 18:23, then should we not struggle and work through this scripture? Could it be we have also defiled our sanctuary by participating? And is ignorance a worthy defense when we stand before the throne? Let's explore the answers through the lens of God, shall we? And then this is, again, Acts 7:43. You have taken up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Rephan, the idols, symbols you made to worship. Did you know, shortly after the military adopted the caduceus symbol for the Army Medical Corps logo, They began to work with the Rockefellers to administer an experimental anti-meningitis vaccine. This experimental vaccine was cultured from a horse, thus creating the infamous 1918 pandemic. Please see the section, the 1918 vaccine-induced pandemic. Interesting picture. All right, so that is the final 3 pages of this particular chapter. So let's go back here. So yeah, that is the full chapter that we read through on this first section here, Rod of Asclepius. So next week we'll read this one, Historical Opposition to Vaccines, the Pastor's Perspective. And that will take us down this way a little ways, and then we'll start with the next full chapter, History of Opposition Pastors, and it is about 5 pages, looks like. So we'll pick it up there next week. So it's a pretty interesting read. It's got a lot of really good information on this website. Again, Revelation1823.net. If you care to check it out. All right, let's look at this one. This is another Israel 365 article I found. Israel 365 News. A second red heifer is born in the Golan. God is pressing us toward building the temple. Yeah, there's a lot of people say that, no temple is necessary, which, even though that's true, that doesn't mean that one won't be built. And I personally think that they will build a temple. And gee, look, it's another red heifer. How could they possibly have so many red heifers, do you think? They have them coming out their ears at this point. Just a month and a half after the National Red Heifer Institute, they have so many that they have an institute now, announced the birth of a red heifer around the reading of Parshat Chukot. The institute is announcing the birth of a second red heifer, this time in the Golan Heights, on the eve of Tisha B'Av. That the same week, 2 red heifers were inseminated in ancient Shiloh, part of what the Institute describes as a broader effort to raise a full herd of red heifers and restore the law of purity to Israel after 2,000 years of exile. A full herd. How do you suppose they would get a full herd of red heifers? Anyone? That would be from genetic engineering. They don't really bother to tell you that, but what else could it be? Seriously. They had all those, 5 different ones that they shipped over from Texas, and one of them supposedly was the actual real sacrifice that happened about a year ago, I think it was. And here's another one, I guess. Emily says, I definitely think they will build the temple regardless of whether it's needed or not. They seem to have an obsession with it. They do. They certainly do, and they've raised untold multi hundreds of millions of dollars, enough to build a city. The Temple Institute has enough money to build an entire city. They're going to do it. It's just a matter of when. And they really want their Messiah, their Moshiach, to come before that. So, and that's not Jesus. That is their own Messiah. Anyway, I thought this was kind of interesting just because yet again we have another red heifer. We are on our way to raising a full herd of red heifers. The team at the Institute expected potential heifers to be born this season, but her birth is close to Tisha B'Av and gives a strong sense that God is pressing us to accelerate the path toward building the temple. The real question is whether we want to, which of course they want to. They've been talking about hitting the Al-Aqsa Mosque with a bomb or a missile and blaming the Iranians. I definitely think they want to. Bring the Holy Temple into every heart. Yeah. So to me, it's not really a question of do they want to do it. They certainly have the money to do it, and they have the will to do it. They've been trying to rebuild it for quite some time, many, many years. And now, with this war with Iran, they have the excuse to knock down what's there on Temple Mount. Now, as we talked about so many times before, Temple Mount is not where the original temples were. They were down the hill just a little bit in the city of David, but that doesn't matter. They want to build it where the Al-Aqsa Mosque area is right now. So they have to do something about that particular building and the other buildings that are right there. So if a stray missile that they can use to not damage the Temple Mount and yet take out the buildings were to happen, they can conveniently blame Iran. I think that's what's probably going to happen at this point. Really, up until this Iranian war started, the war with Iran and the U.S. and Israel, I thought that they would pull off some sort of, tectonic weapon and hit it with an earthquake. And they could still, but it sounds to me like they're really leaning toward the missile. But they've already announced that that's what they're thinking of doing. So I don't know. It's really hard to say, but I do think it's probably coming soon. Who knows how soon? But it will be not really a shocker if and when it does happen. So here's an interesting article, too, speaking of the Temple Mount. Not much was made of this, but I do think it's significant because, again, we know they want the Temple Mount. More than 4,200 Israelis storm the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Did you hear about this? Probably not. Hasn't really been in the news much, and perhaps it wasn't significant enough, but it could also be just because it's the Israeli leadership, i.e. Ben-Gvir, doing it. National Security Minister Ben-Gvir joins settlers and far-right groups at the holy site under heavy police protection. 4,200 Israelis storm the mosque. More than 4,200 Israeli settlers and members of far-right groups have stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in occupied East Jerusalem in one of the largest incursions this year as they mark a Jewish holiday, Palestinian officials say. This is on Al Jazeera, by the way. Far-right Israeli National Security Minister Ben-Gvir also entered the site under heavy police protection on Thursday for Tisha B'Av. We just mentioned that a minute ago in the Red Heifer story. A Jewish day of mourning that marks the destruction twice of an ancient Jewish temple believed to have stood at the site known to Muslims as Al-Aqsa and to the Jews as the Temple Mount. The Palestinian administration of Jerusalem Governorate said 4,288 Israelis had so far entered the compound. This number was expected to keep rising until sundown, perhaps reaching 5,000, the governorate said, which would exceed the numbers recorded in previous years during the same Jewish holiday. Palestinian officials and Israeli forces imposed tight restrictions at the mosque's gates, barred large numbers of Palestinian worshippers and students from entering, and assaulted several worshippers. So, that sounds about right, doesn't it? Noor Oda, Al Jazeera's correspondent in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank, said Israeli authorities had taken extreme measures in the old city of Jerusalem, including barring entry into the Al-Aqsa compound for all but the elderly and tightening checkpoints such as those at, how do we say this, Qalandia, I guess, and around East Jerusalem. Israeli settlers performed Talmudic rituals inside the compound, including prostrating themselves, singing and praying, the Jerusalem Governorate said. Israeli media reported that police allowed more than 1,000 Israelis to pray at the site on Thursday, while non-Muslims were allowed to visit Islam's third holiest site. They are forbidden from praying there as part of the 1967 agreement. Ben-Gvir said Jews visiting the site on Tisha B'Av, quote, feel like the owners, quote unquote, praising what he called tremendous progress there, Haaretz reported. Unacceptable provocation, the Jerusalem Governorate described Ben-Gvir's entry as a dangerous escalation, saying it reflected official Israeli backing for actions previously associated with groups advocating for the reconstruction of a Jewish temple at the site. Yeah, they're basically coming in and saying we own the place. Now, what I'm not sure about is this article mentions it, but one thing they said was that, yeah, we're here to go into the mosque and look for weapons. They did apparently say that, although I don't see that in this particular article. But that's what Ben-Gvir and company did say. They're here to check for weapons. Yeah, right. And that might have been a little part of what they were doing there, but they were there to take over, essentially. At least for a little while. To see if they could do it. It's almost like they were testing the water. Testing the waters. See if they could do it. Anyway, this article is on Al Jazeera. I thought that was pretty interesting. This guy is... it calls him an extremist, and he definitely is that. He's one of the top people that you could call that in Israel these days. Not just Bibi, but Smotrich, who we also talked about at the beginning of the show, and then this guy, Ben-Gvir. All right, GeoWatch for this week. Let's have a look. All right, this is another short little video clip. I'll play this. Fires, incendiary nanoparticle fallout. Fire conditions are so horrifically bad, climate engineering so core to all of it, cutting off precipitation, contaminating the precipitation that does fall, dumping in incendiary dust, aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese on forest foliage, forest floors, destroying the ozone layer, which allows intense UV radiation to destroy the foliage and hamper growth. Geoengineering operations are completely disrupting historical rain and wind patterns. And nanoparticle fallout from climate engineering is a desiccant, incendiary dust that coats forest foliage and everything else at ground level. The incendiary particles are further fueling firestorm intensity and volatility. Yet another firestorm recently broke out near my off-grid Northern California wilderness home. This is Dane talking here. Called the Brook Fire. I filmed a short video from the front line of the fire as it was advancing up ridges about 3 miles southwest of my home. Please forgive my helmet in this footage. I used a fast-moving off-road vehicle. Yeah, I think he's got a four-wheeler or something. In order to reach the fire quickly, which was upwind and headed toward my land. CAL FIRE and affiliated agencies immediately deployed substantial resources to fight the blaze, and I am again indebted to CAL FIRE's above and beyond response. So that's good. It says, in spite of the Brook Fire being very close but in difficult terrain with extreme overall fire conditions, CAL FIRE was able to stop the advancing of the flames.
Forgive the helmet. I'm on a vehicle that moves quickly because I'm very near the fire. This is the Brook Fire, started near my home. You see the flames directly below me. CAL FIRE doing a great job, doing their best, but the conditions are so horrifically bad. Climate engineering so core to all of it. Cutting off precipitation, contaminating the precipitation that does fall, dumping in incendiary dust, aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese on forest foliage, forest floors, destroying the ozone layer, which allows intense UV radiation to destroy the foliage and hamper growth. This very fast-moving fire started only a few hours ago. All hopes on CAL FIRE at this point, and all the other firefighting agencies, they are doing their absolute best. I can attest to that. I've been on a lot of front lines of firestorms. They're doing their best. This is super rugged country to fight fires, and can't get a ground crew in there. They're trying to stop it before it crests the top of the ridge. Only chance is the aerial bombardment right now. I have to get across this ridge as fast as I can before the fire reaches the top. It's moving up this canyon, but the conditions are horrifically worse than they've ever been in previous decades. Again, this is just firestorm roulette now, or devastating deluge, same thing. Here comes another tanker coming down over the top of me right now. You can see right there, he's dumping on top of the ridge. They're gonna try to slow it down before it crests the top of the ridge. I need to get there before they're dumping that retardant on me. It's highly toxic. Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.org.
Okay, well anyway, how about that? So Dane in the motorcycle helmet. You don't see that very often. Yeah, that's quite the story there, and that fire is getting really close. So hopefully he can stay safe. I'm glad that CAL FIRE was able to help him out on this one. So that's good news. And he made a very strong, important point during the radio broadcast this week to thank them yet again. All right, and then this is the Global Alert News for this week, episode 572. 572. Deadly fire thunderstorms are forming across the U.S. Fire thunderstorms forming across the U.S. and cities may be powerless to stop them. Mega firestorms are erupting around the globe. Smoky skies are coming back. We should really have a better way of knowing when it's safe to go outside. Smoke canopies of various densities are now covering entire continents. The bottom line is this. Due to ubiquitous climate engineering, contamination, and highly toxic nanoparticle fallout, there is no place to hide from tainted air, even if skies appear clear. How long can you hold your breath? So yeah, GeoWatch Global Alert News for this week, episode 572. There's a couple, I guess 3 more here, 90-second alerts. The one that we just watched, as well as Toxic Smoke Apocalypse, which I think we watched last week. And Firestorms is a Weapon, U.S. military exposed. We watched that one as well. And it looks like Miss Susan's got a comment here, so let me go to where that is. Tried to walk my dog this evening and my oxygen level dropped to a dangerous level. Had to get back into air conditioning. The air is so thick and polluted here in central Indiana. Wow. Yeah, that's probably, I'm guessing, from the fires, well, the smoke coming down from Canada. Is that right? Is that what you're experiencing? Have to carry a pulse ox with me to monitor my heart rate and oxygen level. It was so weird how quickly my levels dropped when I got out of the AC. Yeah, that's not good. Stay safe, Miss Susan. Is it pollution that's causing the issue? I would guess it's probably more smoke coming down from Canada. Is that right? We'll see if that's what she says. Anyway, yeah, stay safe out there for sure. That's a tough one. Stay safe out there, you guys. I know it's pretty hard with the heat the way it is. And speaking of which, let's look at the scheduled weather coming up for the next few days. This is from the NOAA site. We usually look at this each week. It says valid August 1 to August 5. So coming up, got a few days yet. But you can see it's not that much of a break, though. Near normal in a couple little spots, but above normal most places, especially out west. Indiana is going to be in the slightly above normal area, looks like, which is where we are as well. And Alaska has warmed up again, too. So, no cool places anywhere, but it is nearly August, obviously. So that is a little bit of it. But yeah, it's, temperatures are certainly up there, and humidity levels are the thing that Mr. Dane's been talking about a lot. Humidity is really high in a lot of places. So that makes it way worse. So I'm guessing that could be part of what you're experiencing as far as finding it difficult to breathe, not being in air conditioning and so forth. It could have to do with the high humidity levels. If it's not also smoke, maybe it's both. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So let's take a look at the rest of the comments from you guys, and we'll take a quick break here and check that out. I wanted to also mention that I'm going to play a video tonight. I played it last week, but I didn't announce it, so I don't know how many people actually saw it. But I want to play it at the end of the show, only because we're coming up on the end of the show. But it's got a piece of music in it. I just don't know how the algorithms will, how it'll hit with the algorithms as far as will it shut off my live stream or not. So far, so good on that. You generally get emails sent to you automatically when, a music copyright when it gets tagged on YouTube, and then they flag it, but they don't necessarily always shut your live stream off. But I want to play this video. It's got a piece of music in it that the music is almost like secondary. It is kind of important, obviously, but the video was an AI creation, but it's all biblical. It's the story of the Bible. And I thought it was really well done. So stay tuned for that. We'll watch that here when we close out in just a sec. But anyway, if you like the show and want to support what I'm doing, I would really, really, really appreciate that. And know that is available. We've got several different possibilities, several different mechanisms here. Subscribestar is one of them. Got 5 people that are subscribed on Subscribestar and giving monthly, and you guys know who you are, and I really, really appreciate your support of the show. And basic support starts at $5 a month and goes up from there with different tiers, different levels that are available, and different different freebies that are included in those different levels. So that one's available, again, in the description box below, subscribestar.com/diamonddisc, which you can get to from the link tree as well. And then, let's see, the Buy Me a Coffee is this one. That's the newest mechanism that I have that's available. I've had a few people donate there. That is a way you can give. Really, it's a one-time donation thing. Ideally, that's what people do for the most part. However, those same tiers that are available, I don't know that I've mentioned this, but those same tiers that are available on Subscribestar are also available on Buy Me a Coffee as well. So if you want to contribute monthly, there is a way to do that as well. So again, thank you guys for helping me with the show expenses, of which they are significant and they seem to be rising. Here's the link tree, and this has all the links really to pretty much everything, including Substack, which I didn't show that page, but many of you guys have seen that already. Had a few new people join the free band group, which is our social media group that's associated with this show. That's linked right here as well as all the other platforms that I use for sharing the show and clips of the show, which I've been doing pretty religiously, I would say, over the last almost month, maybe month. I'm not sure if it's been 3 or 4 weeks yet on that, but that's been fun to do. I've enjoyed doing the clips and creating the thumbnails and all that stuff. Hopefully you guys are seeing some of those and sharing some of them. I'm trying to put them on my Facebook pages as far as sharing those. Not getting a whole lot of shares on there, obviously, though, and had a few people that are sharing them off of the Rumble channel and the 2 YouTube channels. So those are there. I usually pick, maybe 8 clips and publish those Wednesday through Saturday after the show's finished. So this is Sunday night. Monday, I will work on the what I call the final edit of the show, the final version of the show, where I'll go through and tighten things up and possibly remove a few things. Maybe I add something. It just depends on the timing-wise. I like to try and keep it less than 3 hours if possible, although last week we went over 3 hours, even on the final version. But I cut it down significantly. I think the broadcast last week was, 3 hours, 45 minutes or something, and I cut it down to about 3:19, I think it was, something like that. So I'm trying to be cognizant and conscious of people's time and only include the most important pieces that I feel need to be there. And sometimes on the live streams, I can start rambling like I'm rambling right now. And so then I edit that out in post, and then we just go on about our business as far as the rest of the full show. And that gets done at some point Monday, sometimes not published until Tuesday. And then Wednesday starts the clips. I do the clips usually on Wednesday and put those out 2 a day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So hopefully you guys can make use out of some of those, and some of those clips are 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Some of them could be a little bit longer, like a 15-minute clip, but most of them are pretty short. And it's just some of the different stories and articles that I cover generally, or, something like that I'm talking about during the course of this show. So anyway, that is pretty much it for me. Let me go look at the comments, and we'll call it a night after that. So let me see where we started. And, first comment right off the bat from Paula. Any more word on that no-hide law meeting? It's taking place in November. 2nd through the 6th, she says. And we briefly touched on that last week, actually. Not with a lot of details, though. There was a YouTube video that I mentioned that talked all about it. And that particular YouTube video was linked in the Substack post last week. So if you guys are on the Substack broadcast on that email list, then you would already have that in your inbox. If you deleted the email, though, you can get back to it pretty easily. If you are on the Substack, you do not need to type your email address in. You just click no thanks, and you go right into the different publications that I've put up really over the years. And you want to find the one that says links for the last show, whatever the last show was. It says links. The other one says podcast. That's just the audio podcast, just the audio version of last week's show. So you want the one that says links, which is usually in the upper left corner there. And then once you click it, you scroll down a little ways, and you will find the article links, right? And YouTube links show the actual video embedded, right? Now, I mentioned last week that we had done a couple shows, Lost Arts radio shows, talking about my experience with V2K, Voice to Skull. And we mentioned that last week on the show, and that is what these two Lost Arts radio shows are. But I was just showing you that the YouTubes kind of self-populate. They show the actual thumbnail of the show on there, so it's handy. So if you keep scrolling down, right here, this is the one that we talked about last week that has to do with the Noahide religion. And that video is embedded here, so just scroll down until you see this one. It's by Truth Be Told, and it's called The One World Noahide Religion Forming in Jerusalem. So that will have those extra details, I think, that you're talking about as far as what Paula was asking about here on the Noahides. The meeting coming up. So anyway, that is there, and we talked about it last week. I'm sure there'll be much more that comes out about that in the coming, month or two leading up to that. So Marty B says, I know Netanyahu has dirt on Trump from Epstein's Manhattan apartment in the 90s, but we must have a lot on him too. That's a good point. I don't know. And I guess he's coming back to the U.S. yet again, I think this week, to meet with old DJT again, to cook up some new trouble for all of us, unfortunately, it sounds like. Yeah, Turtle is exactly right. Who wears their street clothes when you're in the hospital? That's exactly what I said too. That was the first thing that really stuck out to me, that picture of old Turtle, not you, Turtle, but Turtle, Mitch McConnell, was, that picture was fake. I don't think it could possibly be real. You don't wear your street clothes. You might if you're getting ready to be released, but we know he wasn't being released. Even if they're moving you from the hospital bed to a rehab facility, they're not going to change your clothes and put you in street clothes and move you to a rehab facility and have you change clothes again. That's just ridiculous. So anyway, I don't know. Susan says that glyphosate story about the young man, I guess, brings a passage to mind. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Yeah, that's exactly right. Love seeing old people so happy. Yeah, that was pretty neat with the slip inside. Geriatric joy. Okay, Emily says, I definitely think they will build the temple regardless of whether it's needed or not. They seem to have an obsession with it. Yeah, they do, for sure. Well, the reason that I've heard that it's so important for the Talmudic Jews, or maybe it's the Orthodox Jews, I don't really know. The reason that I've heard, though, is that it's because they really, since the temple was destroyed previously, the second temple, because they're no longer doing animal sacrifices for those 2,000 years, they have no atonement for their sins as a group. Now, they don't think of their sins like we do as Christians, where you have your individual sin and you ask forgiveness from God through the blood of Jesus Christ, right? So you go to Jesus Christ and confess your sins and you're forgiven through the blood of Jesus covering over your sins. Well, that's an individual effort. The Jews don't think of it that way, of course. They think of it as a group. So it's the sins of a group, which perhaps could explain why Tel Aviv is what it is, as far as the debauchery and craziness of the, basically the gayest city in the world. Tel Aviv is certainly one of them, and not really that different than Sodom and Gomorrah for the most part. Well, it's a group effort. In other words, the animal sacrifices supposedly atone for the sins of the group of Jews, of the nation of Jews. So that's why they want to bring back the temple, so that they can resume animal sacrifices again to atone for their sins. But that's also probably why they don't care how much sinning that they do, including the murdering and genociding of an entire population in Gaza. Because, hey, we can atone for it in one fell swoop with these animal sacrifices. But they need the temple back to be able to resume the animal sacrifices and everything. Now, they do have an altar, but it's not the same. They have to have the temple. They have to have, you would think, I guess, the Ark of the Covenant in there. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how it works from a technical standpoint, but that is what I've heard. Thank you, Doug. You work hard to keep us informed and have built a strong community of good people who love the Lord. Yes, that is true. We've all built that. Very much worthy of supporting your efforts. Thank you, Susan. And thank you for your support. I know you have been a longtime supporter of this show, so thank you so much to Miss Susan and to Miss Emily and everybody who has supported this show in every way, from helping me to financially. So, yes, very, very blessed from that standpoint. So, yes, very, very cool of you guys. Anyway, I guess that's it for me tonight, you guys. And the next show will be, what? The 2nd? August the 2nd. So that'll be the next Diamond Report Live, August 2nd at 9 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, do stay tuned for this next video. I'm going to play this AI. It is an AI creation. I did not create it, but I did find it and thought that it was really cool and wanted to show it to you guys. The song is pretty neat too, but the AI generation part of it, recreating the story of the Bible, is, I thought, a really good use of AI generation in creating video. And, some people with videos, they just make really stupid stuff, but this thing is really well done and seems to be pretty accurate as far as I can tell. So, much love to everyone, as Miss Emily's saying here. And, hope you guys have a blessed week this week. And I guess we'll do it all again next week. That's what I'm thinking. So, hopefully you guys will be back. And thank you guys for tuning in for the last, 3 hours we've been going here. So, I really appreciate your time. And definitely keep me in your prayers. Keep my family in your prayers. And I will you guys as well. Had a few new people join the band group. So, make sure you... if you join, say hi in there and post whatever you want in there. It's a kind of a free-for-all in a way. So, yeah. Anyway, love you guys. And, again, we'll do it again next week. And we'll hope you have a blessed week this week. And we'll talk to you again real soon.
Is our holy place. Is our holy place. Faith's warm embrace in this sacred space. This is our holy place.